I've got to turn down the audio on this computer because it's going to drive me nuts. Or is that up? I always forget which direction the dial is. It's crazy. All right. This is starting much earlier. I know when people think we're actually starting way early. I'm just going to switch to it and like stop fooling around because the show is actually starting. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good to see you. How are you? Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Be up in just 1 second. I'm going to be starting the show. Hey, Richard Custer, how are you?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Live exclusively for WCPT in Chicago, standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
So, let's see. Where do we start? Do we start with Obamagate? Do we start there and try to figure out?
It's the anniversary of Obamagate, or
yes?
no? Okay.
Yes, yeah. It's if you'll recall, it's the anniversary. It's near the end. I think we're actually 6 weeks away from the anniversary of when JFK Jr. was supposed to land on the White House lawn in his plane that disappeared, and seize and arrest. During the military parade, which was used as cover to draw attention and to arrest Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Huma Abedin, who else?
Poor Huma.
Harry Reid, I guess one of the guys who works at one of the food trucks out on Pennsylvania Avenue, the guy who the ShamWow guy, anyone involved with OxyClean. I don't know, whatever they use to clean up the crime scenes after the horrible Pizzagate situation that they put together. Like the QAnon fantasy from last year was riding so high. And I honestly, when they start bringing up the quote unquote Obamagate stuff, that's really what I keep referencing back on. And by the way, welcome everybody to the show. That voice you're hearing and now that fellow you're seeing is Johnny Million joining us on the show. Hi, thank you for joining us. Thanks to everybody in the chat for joining us. And thank you for listening at home. At the top of the next hour, we're going to be talking to a couple of what a lot of people refer to as dreamers. The official, I guess, term is DACA recipients. And what I would refer to as undocumented Americans. If you're a fan of this show, you know that that's what I've been referring to folks in this position as for a very long time. We're going to be talking to them about what it's like to be, undocumented, but with legal support on the edge of a community that is dealing with this outbreak like everybody else is at the top of the next hour. And I think it's an important conversation that we need to actually have. Now, that being said, we are at the point where somewhere like 29 states are supposedly, quote unquote, opening up this weekend. Now, in that 29, let's be completely honest, there's 25 that were never closed. You know what I mean? Like for real, not in any major way, that they may have, even where in situations where the governor may have issued some sort of thing, everybody just blew it off because it's such a low population state that who's keeping track?
Right.
When you're in a town where the local sheriff wears a Confederate flag T-shirt under his uniform, you're not really going to be. Those kind of top-down orders are not going to be serviced properly by the local professionals as it were. So, but in places like Wisconsin, they're calling it the Wild Wild West. There's all this. There's just a stampede to get out. Now, Pete Williams brought up something that I haven't seen anybody else really bring up in this. And thank you, Billy Hutchins, for the super chat. That's very awesome. Pete Williams has brought something up in that I haven't heard anybody else address, even on Fox News, which is there is a portion of people out there, a big segment of the populace, that views their patriotic duty as staying home and protecting their fellow citizens. And then there are those who would stay home anyways, who maybe there's a wedge of them, and this is me expounding on the theory. Maybe there's a wedge of those folks who, cool, I can not go to my job and I can get unemployment for 16 weeks. This is sweet. I'll take advantage of this circumstance and I'll just do it. Now that's a slim window of human beings, but it would be naive to not expect that there's certain elements of that group. On the other side, there is also a group of people who believe that getting out and maybe getting herd immunity, maybe going back to their job and saving the American economy is their patriotic duty. And they're doing it for the betterment of their fellow American. They just think tough it out is better for people and safer. They're not crazy like the people on the courthouse steps. They just feel like we need to do this because if the economy collapses, then we're in worse trouble and people will die because of that. And it's not that they buy into there's tons of suicide and drugs argument that Trump puts out, but that long term the damage could be more damaging to lives and safety than the disease itself. And in that side of the argument, there's a small wedge of folks who are wearing tricorn hats and carrying M4s, or single shot assault rifles, and basically taking every, NRA protest, 2A protest that they would do and just transmuting it into this. It's kind of like you have a Star Wars convention and the Trekkies didn't get theirs this year, so they just show up anyways. It's kind of space oriented, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And for all the wall-to-wall coverage that we have seen of the folks that have showed up, there was a video yesterday of people, giving the finger to a local news person at this protest when they're holding up their Trump signs and they're, the news isn't fake news isn't essential or something like that. They were holding up those kind of signs. There were. And I tried my best to count them for real, but there were basically 24 people there. And at most of these protests, you're looking at a number of about 200 people. And for the level of seriousness and in their own town, let's be abundantly clear. These are folks who live nearby. It's maybe a hour drive. They're not coming from all over the state, quote unquote. They're unless that's their only, just to get out of the house. They might be coming from the Upper Peninsula because if they want to do anything, they have to come from the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. You know what I mean? There's no place to protest there. The whole place is a protest against nature. You just go out there and shake your fist at the trees. Where am I? Right? My band has played in the Upper Peninsula. I've done stand up there. I know of which I speak. As Fletch would say.
I was going to ask if that was a Fletch.
Yeah. Hey, it's all
things now. Hi.
Yeah. So, in getting, in all honesty, there's, a couple of hundred people, maybe even fewer, maybe 200 people max at a lot of these events. I would like to draw your attention to the Iraq war protests, which were at the time the largest gatherings of human beings on Earth, and were the biggest anti-war protests, even larger nationwide, of course, than during the Vietnam War. And the Women's March, the number of people showing up for that versus the number of people on the lawn for Trump's inauguration, of which, by the way, I was there. I was at both. I was standing on the sparse spot of lawn. So all those people were like, it was way packed. No, it wasn't. I was physically there. I have pictures from where we were standing. Even the Trumpsters were standing, they were social distancing back then, but mainly out of just lack of...
They're man-spreading as best they could.
That's right. That's what it was. Remember when social distancing was Maybe, you know what? That's a great idea, Johnny. Maybe we could get people to social distance just by going, call it man-spreading and let them do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Amerispreading.
Amerispreading.
Amerispreading. So, if you look at the coverage given to those things and the kind of like, well, you know, the Women's March is sort of tempering its, oh goodness, I'll have to fix that. It is very, the audio is very hot. I will fix that during the break because we're going to take a break anyways. But this is for, you know, for all the attention that it is getting, it is not deserving it. And I would like to say for the record that in the future, when I'm touring and doing stand-up again, and I'm drawing crowds nightly per show, double or triple the number of people at these gatherings, I expect 24/7 news coverage. I want cable news coverage. I want people to stand outside my comedy shows, interviewing people and going, what does this say about America? And I don't think they'll like the answers they're getting, but we'll fix that. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. They're firing IGs just to cover under the cover of darkness every Friday night now as a way to hide where this money is going. We're going to find that this was the heist. That's what we're going to find out. We'll be back. Oh, I see why. Well, that's lovely. Hold on one second.
What happened?
When I put you in, this is the first time using Skype in here. Now say hi and see if everybody can deal with that kind of low.
Hello, 1 2 1 2.
Yeah. So that should fix it. Skype, when I added you, the software added a Skype audio channel. And I already had you piping in through another source because I didn't know it did that. And so it was doubling you up and echoing you and making everybody crazy and loud. And that was my mistake, guys. I didn't, because you can't, here's the thing too, and this annoys me. Skype with your NDI output, which is spectacular and choice, and I love it. All NDI, I'm such an NDI fan. I want to hug New Tech. If you know what I mean, and you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't set this up until you've got the person on the line. So, Yes, there were two Johnnies, which is better than one Johnny. I'm just saying.
I don't know. Not according to my wife.
Has she experienced two Johnnies before? Is there I see you actually thinking about that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah, no. This is
So this is my iPad instead of my laptop camera. How do you like the iPad camera?
It's good. Yeah. Solid. It's nice. Yeah. That's off your laptop? Yeah, it's straight up?
I've been off my laptop for the last couple weeks. So this is my iPad.
Oh, your iPad. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks fine. Looks great, actually. Spectacular. Yeah, absolutely. I can see your infuser up behind you or whatever, or is that a lamp? And then there's...
That's a lamp.
Okay, yeah. I couldn't tell if it was one of those things. But you can always put, like, essential oils on a bulb as long as you don't overdo it. And I don't recommend it, obviously.
And over here, you can see that's a picture of a cat.
In case a live one isn't available. So there's always one in there.
And then over here, I've got an AA coin display that says, "Congratulations on the anniversary of your horrific alcoholic bottom."
Oh, that's adorable. They don't have T-shirts?
I'm sure they do.
Whoa.
Coming in hot.
This is Doris Davenport, host of the Doris Davenport Show.
That's okay.
All local, all the time. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So Trump multiple times yesterday, if you're a follower of my regular stream, the plan out of the Trump White House going forward is look busy, but look busy opening. Now, every time you have heard Trump speak about the reopening of the country, there's quite simply, it would be way easier if he had simply come out and said, we're going to reopen our country. We have to do it. We're going to do it in very careful stages. I'm listening to the governors. We're interacting with them. We've got 14 days. That's all it is. 2 weeks. and we need to see the cases drop. So if people stay home and they do their thing and we continue to do this and we ease out the, people are social distancing, at the end of those 14 days, we enter phase 1 and these businesses get to open. And then after that phase 1, as those businesses open, we have another 14 days where during these new businesses that open and people are starting to go back and interact with those folks again, we're watching for that 2 weeks. And we want to see those cases continue to go down. And then we get the third wave. And then we're fully open in as fast a time as we possibly could do it safely for our citizens. Now, that's the CDC's recommendation. That's the California plan going forward. That's what everybody's been doing. It is basically the one designed in February when people recognized the excrement was going to hit the HVAC unit, and they started looking into how do we make this happen? How do we, because this is going to hit us, and it's going to mess with the economy, it's going to mess with people's lives, it's going to cost people's lives. But we're going to have to recover from it, and that in and of itself, so that we don't have a second wave, so that that's worse than the first. Right. How do we make this happen in a regulated, smart way that protects as many people as possible, that balances public safety with keeping the economy on track, so people don't. We don't have a wave of bankruptcies causing suicides and the like. And that's, those every time there's huge unemployment for long periods of time. Now, this is a very different thing. When we talk about unemployment in terms of like 2008, which was directly related to a financial attack on our system, the credit default swaps had undermined credit. Most of the companies that required credit to pay for people's paychecks as they rolled through, like if you rely on shipments of stuff that come in late and you have like rolling lines of credit that you pay the people now for the profit you're going to have afterwards, and then you pay that off, and so that you never accrue any real debt, those kind of things, which had been a business model for a good long while. When that disappeared, it wrecked everybody's ability to have a business, and so it had a cascading effect that was genuinely economic, the 2008 crash. This is very different. A good portion of the jobs that went away will come back when this is done, but there will be a huge chunk that won't. And all the ancillary ones that are attached to that take longer may collapse in the process. Bars, restaurants, nightclubs, certain airlines that were teetering on the brink, all the things related to sort of travel, malls across the country that were on the edge of just barely being solvent are getting hit really hard, because if you're going to go to a store, you're going to go to the kind of the strip mall version of one, where you're just going to go in the front door of the place you want. You don't want to walk around in hallways in this circumstance. That is going to have an effect on the economy, an ancillary effect, and it. You can see that. You could have seen that 2 months ago when we shut stuff down. You can look at who's going to be affected by it. And in those malls, by the way, it's the single-use stores and the one-offs that are going to be harder hit by it, because the chains can be sustained by their online presence and their outdoor mall stores kind of keeping that balance. And who gets hit is the franchisee, the person who is, rather than, trying to start their own business, is starting, one of these, a Carl's Jr. or a body, what is it, like body shop, like the soap places in the mall and that kind of stuff, where those are
like Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah, but no, that's a big one. The little like ones that sell like body wash and soap and loofahs and whatnot. But those are franchise spots. People go there, and they upend their life to do that. Folks decide that this is going to be their business model. They don't feel like they know enough about business to run one from scratch. They like the idea, they like the shop, and they go to one of these like entrepreneur camps and franchise camps, and they, like real estate people do, and they pick out something and they go, this will be our one, and then they invest like $150,000 of their own money, or money they gather from all their relatives, to start this franchise because they know it's going to be profitable. And it's got a margin for, maybe a year that won't be anywhere near profitable. And they just got to keep it humming, get up there, become normal. And then something like this happens and it just pulls the rug out from under them. And it might have been, God knows, there are dozens of people who after 2008, had been working someplace. It collapsed. They had to start from scratch. They build their life back up. It took them, 6 or 8 years to finally get their footing again, and then it gets pulled out from under. There are going to be stories of that. So in doing that, most states, most large organizations, large companies are going, wow, this shutdown's going to have to be real. Okay, what's our plan for getting back out there? And the plan that the CDC put forward was based on a lot of the other countries that were looking into how to do this. And the 14 days that they were doing, the 2-week span that kept getting brought up as part of this, was initially part of how long this contagion lasts. At about 2 weeks, that you'd arc through it, show symptoms, and then recover from it, whether you were symptomatic or not. It was about a 14-day arc assumed. We are now seeing that there are people who have been carrying this disease and are still producing viral particles at 45 and 50 days. So already that plan is not nearly as protective as they believed it would be early on in this process. Now, the woman that they keep interviewing who's still expressing particles of the virus after all this time, she's a rarity. There is no reason to believe that is essentially how this, virus affects everybody. However, it affects some people that way, and we have no idea how many. And we also don't know how many of the asymptomatic people carry it like that. There's a lot, that when they say there's a lot about this disease,
we don't know.
Yeah, when they say we don't know, that's what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, insofar as herd immunity and the ability for people to, get it again, all the signs point to that once you've had it, you don't get it again. Most of the coronaviruses are like that. It's why they survive in bats and whatever for a long time. They become kind of, latent and neutered in your system. And so,
hey,
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I beg your pardon.
He's totally calling me out here.
That's right.
That's how he describes me to his friends.
That's true.
He's kind of like one of those latent neutered guys.
That's absolutely. But the 14-day marker is based on that principle at root. Is the idea is that that once you've had it, it's out of your system. You're immune now. So either in 14 days of you getting it, developing it, it getting you or you getting control of it, and then the whatever outcome occurs, you are in 14 days you're fairly clear as an individual, right?
Right.
That's if you got it right on that day, on that first day of the 14. If you catch it midway through that 14, then it's like a round of row your boat, with this disease where it perpetuates itself. And that's the fear that we have about it spreading through the society. Now, in terms of this 14-day cycle, when they announced from the White House their plan for reopening, the problem was that Trump thought phase 1 was the opening part, not the 14 days leading up to the opening. So phase 1 was you ramp up to phase 1. Phase 1 is the opening of the secondary businesses. It is not the opening of the primary businesses. You have to go 14 days from where we were in quarantine, from the date we had established when everybody was still doing full mitigation. You needed states to go down for 14 before they could enter phase 1 and start opening these other businesses. Then you'd have another 14 days, and then you'd open the further businesses as long as fewer cases started showing up. Now, New York has extended its stay-at-home order well into July, I think. LA has extended it for 3 months. And basically it's knowing full well, the reason they do that is knowing full well that people are not going to do it. So you put the most strict controls on something because there's going to be a certain amount of people sneaking out past it. If people were actually participating and everybody was playing fully together, you could say we're at 80%. We're going to do 80% mitigation. So if you've gone out once, every 2 weeks, you can go out once every week. to the grocery, to, pick up something, dry cleaners can open. That's 80%, those kind of things. Things where you don't really interact with that many people. We got to take a break. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. The Trump administration is consistently removing anybody who looks at where the money is going that's being spent by the CARES Act and doled out by the CDC and the NIH. And they are, this seems like a heist to me, like an old school early Iraq War, $8 billion on a pallet in the middle of the desert kind of a scam. We're back to no bid contracts. They're playing the Republican hits. We'll be back. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. There we go. And hi, everybody who's in the chat. Good to see you. Thank you guys so much. Tom Hebert for the Hal Sparks Truth and News Fund. Thank you. We do our best. Lisa Mia Moore, thank you so much. Don Parlamento, thanks for the follow. I appreciate you joining us here. Green Seeker 100, great to see you. Thanks so much. And Hal Vickery, thank you guys, you so much. Billy Hutchings, there you are as well. And Jeff Ninecout, resubscribe on Prime for 2 months. He's followed on Twitch, I think is what that was. Yeah. And Gapul, merci. So yeah, if you're Twitch still says Call of Duty, that happens. I know. I'm supposed to update those things, and I blew it. Let's see. Edit. No, I don't want to. I'm going to change the update titles. There we go. Edit. Talk shoes. There you go. Excellent. Okay. Cool. Now we're back to normal. All right. Phew. Whoa. Kathy B, have you been up gaming all night? It is kind of Call of Duty in here. It kind of is, yeah. Yay, Billy Hutchings. Yay, Hal Vickery. Yay. It's very strange, Hal Vickery, to have another Hal in here, I have to say. It is a rarity. It is, yeah. Same with YouTube comment area for streams. The last 5 streams or so. Oh, it says that in the YouTube comment area? The Call of Duty thing? Yeah. Trump has Rocky Mountain Mike. Trump has made the post office replace the forever stamp with a until a younger, hotter stamp comes along stamp. Somebody's been hanging out with John Fugelsang. Fugelsang writes like somebody from I think Fugelsang was born in the wrong decade, if not the wrong century. We had Hyle's Drive-In in Highland Park. Which Highland Park? In Chicago? Was there a drive-in? I don't remember there being one in Highland Park. Might be another Highland Park someplace. It's not like names are all that. Them Hals. That's right. These Hals. These Hals are trying. These Hals are saying a lot of stuff on the internet every single day, and they try to do it so you can have a laugh or two. Boo, 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 boo.
Back in 60 guys, and Hal, you got 4 callers.
Okay, great. Hold on. I realized I had to shut the door so I don't wake up the house. It's a crazy thing. I keep forgetting to do that because I get carried away with my food, man. John Fugelsang should be a 50s comedian. I think he should be a 20s comedian. I see him on the radio. You know what I mean? If he wasn't so Bob Dylan, I think at the time he would have been, one of those dudes with accidental short hair or accidental long hair, where they all combed it back in the movies from the 30s or whatever. But then when they got, like George Bailey, once they lose control, their hair flops into there. You're like, Jesus, I didn't realize how long your hair was because everybody just pushes it all back, Nobody's listening to me. Nobody cares. Hey, thanks. My stamp joke is 3 years old, by the way. Well, it's still, keeps. Let's see.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Johnny Million, yeah. Johnny Million playing so fast. Doodly 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 wiggly wiggly boo. What album is that on? Of yours?
That is actually a jam track that I just had out on my SoundCloud. It's not even me. I mean, it's me playing a solo over it, but it's not my composition.
Huh. Oh, you were soloing over something else, like just like one of those background jam track
Yep,
things?
that's exactly it, yeah.
All right. Well, it's from now on, I'm calling that one Mega Worldwide. That's the name of the song.
Nice.
And it's the Johnny Million Mega Worldwide is the name of that song. I dig it every time it plays in. We have, by the way, look at that. Thanks for the cheers. Appreciate that. We have a bunch of callers on the line. Let's see who we have first, Devin.
First, we have Lisa out in Glendale.
Excellent. Hey, Lisa. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, it's Lisa Mia Moore. I'm good.
Lisa Mia Moore. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah. I'm calling. I'm a medical technologist, and I work at Glendale Adventist, and I run the COVID test at work. I also do the test on coagulation studies. And what I want to do, just kind of open up discussion, is the deaths that are caused by strokes and embolisms and heart attacks that are saying. One of the things that I have noticed just in my work is the COVID positive patients all have high fibrinogen and D-dimer tests. Those are two factors in the coagulation studies. And I wanted to talk to people about if they, God forbid, are starting to feel symptoms, that they discuss with their doctors about drawing blood for coagulation studies, so that, because I tell you, all of the patients have high fibrinogen, which is the thing that causes clots.
Right.
And you know, the clots in the legs and everything. So I just kind of wanted to put it out there as information. Talk to your doctor about this.
I have questions about that.
Help themselves.
So and I know you when you talk about this the way my mom talks about vasectomies. It's just you jump straight to the local office vernacular. Yeah. The nicknames for it. So there are large vessels strokes associated with this. There are I heard a story of a doctor who was operating on someone and literally saw the blood continuing to clot while he was clearing the clot out. It was happening so fast.
Yeah.
Explain to people what kind of these large, what those two particular maladies are and what the symptoms are associated with them, so they
An example is one actually that I heard on the news. Somebody was experiencing mild symptoms, went into urgent care. I guess wasn't sick enough to them take them seriously. Went home. He woke up the next morning. Both of his legs had gone numb. He got into the hospital. Doctors, vascular surgeons went in and did surgery and found clots in both of his legs and had to remove the clots. Those two tests, and they're all done. You can ask the doctor to draw a blue top tube, and that's for coagulation studies. But when your blood clotting is actually a really complicated cascading kind of reaction with a lot of enzymes and coenzymes doing stuff. But what the fibrinogen does is it makes the clot, and the D-dimer helps in that too.
Right.
And what it looks like what's going on with the virus is it stimulates this action in our blood. For some reason, our blood is saying, "Oh my God, clot!" That there's something. So I know I take a low dose aspirin every day anyway for strokes because I'm 67 and so I got it.
Right.
But I think, maybe talk to doctors about everybody doing this right now. I don't know if that's an idea, but, I just want to put it out there that if you are communicating with your doctor or if you go to urgent care, to demand that they do coagulation studies. And if people want to write that down, then if you do coagulation studies, they'll do all of it.
Right.
And fortunately, our hospital, our ER docs are really on top of it, and they do this on everybody basically who walks in now. And I mean, I could diagnose people in the lab, not just from the test, the COVID test, which I run, but also from what I'm looking at on that other instrument. And those really high fibrinogen counts, I know those people are COVID positive because they're the only ones who have numbers like that. People who are healthy do not have numbers like that.
Right.
So it's just really but if they just say, I want a blue top tube drawn because I need to know that my coagulation factors are normal, especially fibrinogen. If they can say that to their doctor, even if you're saying, well, you don't have a fever,
because of the phone,
say, I want it anyway.
Yeah, because of the phone connection, it sounds like you're saying vibranium. So
fibrinogen.
Fibrinogen.
FIB.
Yeah.
Fibrinogen. Yeah.
Fibrinogen. Right.
It's FIB. Yeah, fibrinogen.
Okay.
And
fibrinogen.
the other one is D-dimer.
D-dimer. Yeah.
Those two tests.
Yeah.
And
so
they're drawn in a blue top tube. So when they're drawing their blood, the person who's drawing their blood, they have to make sure that they get a blue top tube because that's the only one that we run for those tests, and that's in every single lab everywhere. That's universal. So, and I think, for us to be proactive, we need to, say, I need this because you might have a negative test because, that's not reliable. You might not have a fever.
Right.
But your fibrinogen still could be high, and you could wake up and stroke out. I mean, that's what worries me. When I see these tests like that, and I've been running a lot of them. So
yeah. So
anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. There in the New England Journal of Medicine, there's an article where they said we report 5 cases of large vessel stroke in patients younger than 50 years of age who presented to our health system in New York City. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. Infection was diagnosed in all 5 patients. Cough, headache, chills lasting 1 week. Developed in a previously healthy 33-year-old woman. She then had progressive dysarthria with both numbness and weakness in the left arm and left leg over a period of 28 hours. She delayed seeking emergency care because of fear of COVID-19. When she presented to the hospital, the score of the National Institute of Health stroke scale was 19 on a 0 to 42, with higher numbers indicating greater stroke severity. Computed tomography and CT angiography showed a partial infarction on the right middle cerebral artery, which is in her head, right? And with a partially occlusive thrombus in the right cardiac, at the cervical bifurcation, so in her right leg. So she had a right leg and a left part of her head.
Right. And that's just because I just want people to be proactive and say, okay, I want this, if you're going in for routine, like I just went for a routine checkup. I want this test done. Just say, just to see, get a baseline, to see what it is. And it'll probably all be normal, but if it's not, then something's wrong.
Right. Yeah. It's that I appreciate you calling in and like setting us on that path. There are so many aspects of this, which, there's a lot of talk this week about how the Abbott test was, you might as well flip a coin for false positives in that. And if you can go in, get that, and also get these other markers tested, it can give them a way to kind of triangulate whether or not you have it. So let's say you get a false positive or a false negative in your test. The other tests will give them an idea of whether or not you have something to worry about. So that part is, I think crucial.
And this test could back it up too. The coagulation test, if you're getting a negative on your, on your COVID, but your fibrinogen is through the roof, then retest the COVID because because normal people don't have a high fibrinogen. They just don't. It's always normal.
Right. So
now I can only hear vibranium.
Yeah, no, that's fibrinogen.
Fibrinogen. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I know.
Fibrinogen.
I'm just
Yeah.
he planted the seed.
That's right. That was my fault. I blame me. Well, I appreciate you calling in with that information. It is crucial and vital. One of the ongoing things has been this kind of like how stroke affects the younger people in it. People are less likely to check on those elements of it. It is a curiosity in this, especially when people have had it. The anecdotal story, and we got to take a break right now, but I appreciate your support for the show and you being in the chat every week, and it's great to have you there.
I appreciate you.
Thanks. And throw that.
Thank you.
Do me a favor. Throw that information in the chat. The names of those things, so that everybody in there can see them written out. The D-dimer and the fibrinogen. So that people know what to ask for. Because again, this is different than you should try hydroxychloroquine. What have you got to lose? It's different going in and going. There's nothing to lose from having an extra test from your doctor to look at something to make sure that you're in the clear. So we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. We'll be back right after this.
Everything just got very quiet.
Yes. I was reading. Sorry.
Okay. You better apologize for reading.
Mm-hmm. Presented with new onset symptoms of large vessel ischemic stroke. All 5 patients tested positive for COVID-19 compared to 2 weeks over the previous 12 months. Our service has treated on average 0.73 patients younger than 50 with a large vessel stroke. On admission of the 5 patients, the NIHS score was 17, consistent with severe large vessel stroke. 1 patient had a history of stroke, and other pertinent clinical characteristics are summarized in Table 1. A retrospective study of the data from COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan, China, showed that the incidence of stroke among hospitalized patients with COVID-19 was approximately 5%. Youngest patient in that series was 55 years of age. Moreover, large vessel stroke was reported in association with 2004 SARS-CoV-1 outbreak in Singapore. Coagulopathy and vascular endothelial dysfunction have been proposed as complications of COVID-19. The association with large vessel stroke and COVID-19 in young patients requires further investigation. Yeah.
Back in 60, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll grab a couple more of those callers in the bottom part of this. Thanks, Bashar Miles, for the cheers. Mm-hmm. And hi, everybody, and good morning, and welcome, and hello, and hi, Carl, and hey, Kelly Bon Vivant, and Valerie, and Patricia. Can't stop lying. Fibrinogen. The pseudohalogenic compound cyanogen, which, when combined, can burn the nose, the throat, the eyes, and can cause vomiting and even death. Oh, sort of like your aftershave. Pseudohalogenic compound cyanogen. Yeah, thank you, Lisa Mia Moore, in the chat.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
As you do. We have more callers on the line. Let's grab somebody else. And by the way, like I said, in the top of the next hour, we have a couple of dreamers who are going to be calling in on undocumented Americans, people who have lived with and among us as Americans their entire lives and are on the front lines of our response to this. And in many ways are, in a particularly perilous situation where they are essential workers, but are in danger of ICE raids and all kinds of other nonsense under this president. So that's at the top of the hour. But who do we have on the line currently, Devin?
Next, we have Carl out in Nashville.
Excellent. Oh, Carl in Nashville.
What?
What?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Hi. The Carl in
How you
Nashville.
doing,
It's
man?
incredible. We're so glad to hear from you.
Good, man. Good. We're cool here in Nashville, man. The mayor in this city. I mean, he locked down everything a week or so before our governor did.
Right.
And he still has things, under control. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, you can't look at it as a situation that you're being punished or this is authoritarian government is coming down on you and taking your freedoms away from you. This is a public service that you're doing.
Right.
You know, this is a patriotic public service that you're doing for your community, your state, and your country. It really is as simple as that.
Yeah, I think convincing people of that is the trick, right? That's the thing. That's the that's the reality, is that if you could talk to those people in those terms, then they'll get it. The problem is the president's been talking about this like, we need to get the barn doors open. Let's just get it going. We got to go. We got to go, go. And the way he converses about it, it does not manage expectations. It does not make people have any kind of deeper understanding of what their responsibilities are once they go out. He goes, you pass your social distancing and you don't thing, and people may wear masks or maybe they don't. Like, that's the worst way you can possibly talk about this, because it gins up people's frustrations. You can see them going, well, the president thinks they're lying, and he knows more than anybody. He has access to more information than anybody. That's the scary part for me.
Well, the positive is that there's more of us.
Yes.
Even Republicans that's being responsible than it is for the AstroTurf protesters around the country.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even less of them out than the Tea Party people were. And it wasn't that many of them either, but it's a really small number of AstroTurf protesters that come out, and that's really causing problems. And I tell you what, man, I would love for you to open up the lines to the evangelical Christians, and just let them know this is what happens when you elect an incompetent racist like Donald Trump. This is what you get. You get incompetency. There's a book that's either just been released or about to be released, and it chronicles Donald Trump and his administration firing a lot of his team that was meant to get power from Obama, transitional team, and they never had that. There are people from the last administration that had meetings set up where their counterparts never showed up. And we know what he did with the CDC by cutting 80% of the first responders overseas, and then getting rid of the pandemic response team that the Obama administration had put in place within the White House with him. All these things lead up to stuff like this. See, you don't get something like what we have in this country right now with this pandemic. It doesn't happen overnight. Right. It's been incompetency for almost 4 years now with this administration.
But Carl, the cupboards were bare.
Catching up to them and biting them in the ass.
Carl, the cupboards were bare for 3.5 years.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. The virus is a new corona, and how can you have a test
broken
for something?
Right.
A broken test for something that didn't exist until a few months ago. So, people are really paying attention and listening, because most times people are so busy with their life that life gets in the way. But since people have been really sitting at home and couldn't go anywhere, they really got to pay attention to the incompetency of Donald Trump firsthand, especially with those meetings and everything every day. So they're really getting to see it. Even the novelists of people that really weren't paying attention to the thing the way me and you.
It fascinated me that, big excuses, and they talked about it this week. Kayleigh McEnany comes out on her first briefing and says, "I will never lie to you." Then on their way to
and lied to us immediately.
Oh, absolutely! Like before she inhaled after that sentence. But in the middle of the last 2 days particularly, everybody's been reporting on the CDC, the pandemic response team, and the fact that once the Obama, team had been set in place, they created a mission statement and an action plan going forward, as you would, in case something like this happens. And it's a single-spaced pile of papers. And so Thursday, Kayleigh McEnany, on their way, flying someplace to Ohio to stand in front of a bunch of empty boxes, she holds up this is what the Obama folks left behind, just a pile of loose paper. Like, she brings out a clipped one with notes all over the front of it, as if that's how they left it. And then holds up 2 binders with cover pages, one of which is an after-action report for a thing they supposedly did last August, where they called Crimson Contagion, where they gamed they did a strategy session on what happens if we have an outbreak, specifically from China, an Asian country, and it gets in here and all this stuff. So all that, who could have imagined? Well, they did it last August, and they had an after-action report. She held up one of those. The other one, she's like, this is our plan. Here's their loose leaf, the Obama-Biden paper packet. Here's our binder. This is the quality thing that the Trump, look, it has a folder and a cover page. And she goes, tomorrow we'll go through this line by line. Friday they come out, she holds it up, he goes, this is theirs, this is ours, hands them to her assistant, and never addresses it again. It was the most embarrassing lie, never. And I'll tell you why, because in that thing is the Obama-Biden plan. If it's not blank paper, it's what the Obama-Biden group left behind.
Exactly. I mean, they were. I mean, pretty much, they were calling this a Democratic hoax on Fox News, and he was even in South Carolina
until it started killing Republicans.
And it was a hoax and everything. They didn't take this thing serious until the stock market lost 2,000 points about 8 Mondays ago. That's when it really started scaring the hell out. And it's funny as heck, because I know I've mentioned to you before. I call in a local Republican, a conservative talk show in Knoxville, Tennessee. Every few days, because it's a 5-day-a-week show, and you can see in the beginning the people that was, because most of those are Republicans, so they didn't think it was nothing. They thought it was a hoax, and you can get the calls. And then somewhere around the middle, their butts started getting scared.
Right.
You could hear the fear in their voice about what was happening. And now, since Donald Trump is telling them that, hey, everything is cool, come on out, now they're back where they were a few months ago. And it's hilarious to listen to these scared-ass people about 3 weeks ago, to now they're cocky and confident and ready to go cough in each other's face right now because Donald Trump said so. So
that's right.
It is what it is with those people. They don't vote against their own self-interest. They do it because that's what they want to get done to them. So pretty much, if we have to leave them behind, then bye.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that if it was just up to them, if you're talking about smoking or something along those lines, where you kind of do yourself in through your choices, it'd be one thing. But this is a contagion. And this is the unfortunate aspect of this whole thing, is that those folks, in their ignorance and in their disregard for their fellow Americans, they spread it everywhere else. And what they endanger most of all is frontline healthcare workers. Because those are the people who get the highest viral load, who are exposed to it, who have it wreck their system so much worse, and that's the concern. So we're at the bottom of the hour. I appreciate it's great to hear from you.
Thank you, man. Good to talk to you, Hal. No
absolutely. Be well. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon. This is the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. And we also stream live at infotainmentwars.com and all your social media gatherings right now, except Facebook, because I can't afford it, because they just take rubles now, and I don't know where to even get those. So what are we going to do? We'll be back right after this with a couple of dreamers to give us their own perspective on their experience. The new Logic just came out.
Oh, okay.
And if it had come out at the beginning of this, I'd have a whole album.
Really?
Like there's so much cool stuff. Like the new stuff just to create drum tracks and stuff is.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's because that's always been the hard part for me. Is because I don't like uniform drum tracks per se, but when I write my own, they don't feel or sound natural because of the overlap of the samples and that kind of stuff. So when you're tapping them out, they never feel flowy to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's something to it.
I've used, and this is probably like Logic's version of this, but I've used addictive drums a lot.
I have Superior Drummer, which is what I use.
Oh yeah, by Tune Track.
Yes. And the sounds are great.
I have that, but it's kind of too complicated for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
well,
I don't know enough about it.
I use
a
Yamaha
Easy
thing.
Drummer, which is like the Fisher Price version, and it sounds pretty all right. Like I've released stuff with Easy Drummer.
Yeah, well, Superior Drummer is just that plus some a little more instrumentations.
Exactly.
And none of
them
you know how hard it is to dig up concert toms on these things? If you want a Phil Collins or a Neil Peart kind of setup, like they just don't do it. It's like, it's the weirdest.
Yeah, it's all the old like ringy double-headed toms. There's not a lot of the toms that we grew up with. Like that's how I think toms should sound.
I agree. Yeah. But now the big, I think it was mid-90s when everybody, Brendan O'Brien, where they kind of just let it ring, don't really do much, loosen them up, and it creates all this bouncy sound to it, and it doesn't have the crack or the push. It's really hard for that. And then when you're tapping them with your fingers, the sample
Both guests
will go
on the line, Hal.
Excellent. Will go do or dack, but not anywhere in between. And you have to tap it so lightly.
Surprisingly good is if you can mix in like what is it, the T
808,
like the Yamaha 808 toms. They're like the Alex Van Halen toms.
Oh, all right.
And just that little do. If you can find some of those samples, like automatically I used to dismiss electronic drum samples like Simmons and Roland and everything. But the toms, I don't need that much
ring,
like nuance out of the tom.
No. They're meant to be higher note, like they're meant to draw attention like cymbals do in some ways, like a ride cymbal. Ding, it's supposed to create your attention to it, not hold the beat up like a kick drum does. Or cut it like a snare does. Snare is like a knife, and the bass drum is like a bowl. Just kind of holds it all together. Whereas the toms are somewhere in between, but they always default to the low end. Is this exciting, chat room? Are you guys enjoying this conversation?
This is what it would be like if we just
if we had. Once Biden's in office, these are kind of lovely chit chats we would be able to have again.
It'll be back. If anyone remembers what it was like when Obama was in office. Oh, did you see the tweet I sent out from 2012?
No.
And I think I added you. It was an announcement from my Facebook memories saying, "It's official. I'm playing with House Parks Band 01 tomorrow night at Reggie's. We're playing a Kiss cover." Yeah. And that was the night before.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I missed that. Thank you, Jill Carter. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's the thing. Let's see. I'm rolling back through the chat a little bit. I always think of Step Brothers when I start talking about drums. Yeah. You saw Step Brothers, right, Johnny?
Oh my God, I love Step Brothers. It's the first movie that I bought on like Amazon, like digitally. It's the first digital movie I bought.
Nice.
On the cloud, because I talked about it so much when it came out that I had to like have it to show people. Like,
Mountain Bound.
You don't understand. They talk about fancy sauce.
Yeah, right.
Or just the rage whispering that they do when they go to bed that first night.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
What I do to you.
I just get like
pillowcase and full of bars of soap.
Yeah. And when he finally sings, let's give him something to talk about. Like you saw I think I saw wings. Like you are an angel. I've been called the voice of a generation. Like it's how 8-year-olds talk. It's so great. It's so how 8-year-olds talk. It's fantastic. 8-year-old sleepover conversations, but adults.
Did I hear Devin?
Yes.
Yeah, back in 45.
So,
Yeah.
Chieres, I'm going with that. And Alejandro Fuentes Mena. Fuentes Mena, I think is, getting the names right is Chieres. Let's see. Okay. They have a podcast.
Together?
Yeah, and it's
cool.
It's pretty cool.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
So I'd like to welcome to the show right now a couple of guests. They're both DACA recipients. They're with the Modus Theater's Undocumented America tour and podcast series that shares personal stories of undocumented neighbors that many people either know they have or don't know that they have. You can download Undocumented America's podcast at shoeboxstories.org, shoeboxstories.org. Wherever you get your podcasts, on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And I want to welcome to the show Tanya Chieres and Alejandro Fuentes Mena. Are you guys both with us?
Yes. Hello.
Tanya?
How are you?
Hi, Tanya. Hey, Alejandro. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So first of all, let's tell us about the podcast so everybody can subscribe, listen to it, and kind of get that, because I think more than anything, I've always said that diversity is the root of our democracy, not the fruit of our democracy. That you incorporate everybody's story into what we all want to accomplish together, and that's how we all benefit everybody. And so, knowing people's experiences, interacting with other people, finding your commonalities and your experience is so important. And I feel like this is one of those areas. And you have people, tell us about who you have. This is really cool. Tell us about who's reading the stories of some of the undocumented immigrants that you guys have been speaking to, and DACA recipients as well. Tell us all about that.
Absolutely. So the Shoebox Stories podcast invites prominent Americans to read the stories of undocumented youth. And we have really amazing people such as Jose Andres, who's reading Alejandro's story, Arda Acevedo. We have Maria Hinojosa, who read mine, John Lithgow, the actor. The list goes on, sort of. And we have musicians also who are Grammy Award-winning musicians to respond to these readings of our amazing undocumented people's stories.
That's great. We're big fans of John Lithgow around here. He's always been one of those people who's been on the cutting edge of human rights within his work. Anyways, like he's always been he was America's Michael Caine for a little while, being in nearly everything. But his character in World According to Garp was life-changing for a lot of non-binary and trans people at the time. His telling of that particular story. So he's always been I'm just a huge fan. But so in the telling of these stories, what are you especially in the current experiences? What are you seeing on the ground, or people's, main experiences during quarantine? People who are people feeling safer or less safe? What's been some of the experiences you guys have had too?
Yeah, well, I would say that quarantine has been very difficult for a lot of individuals. I would say that as a very social individual, the fact that I have to be staying stuck at home is difficult, and that's something that I feel like everybody has a part of. But outside of that, what we're seeing is that as undocumented individuals, in order to make sure that we're safe, that is a lot more difficult for us, because the issue is that we are considered essential. We work in a lot of these essential jobs, right? So we constantly have to put our lives at risk in order to provide for our families. And not working is not necessarily an option for a lot of us, because they're not getting the stimulus check in order to sort of like help them out with their finances throughout this time. They're not getting real access to any medical things outside of urgent care. And it's still just a very, if anything, COVID heightened how precarious times are for undocumented individuals. Is there anything else that you would add, Tanya?
No, I think that definitely makes sense. I mean, there's an irony right now that we are undocumented and sometimes called illegal and unwelcome in this country, but also essential. And right now, I mean, it's clear that undocumented people have always been a key pillar of the economy. I mean, we're like 70% of farm labor, and just we make up so much of this country.
Yeah, and especially when you look at how food processing areas and meat processing plants and those kind of areas are highly affected by this, and it's hard to not feel that there's some level of disregard for the people who work there, simply because a lot of them are undocumented or are new immigrants to the country as well. So it's not even just the people who are perceived as being undocumented who are either, became citizens or have lived here their entire lives. That cultural and racist perception, I think, endangers everybody's lives in that regard. So are you getting, stories from people about, the contagion in those communities and the spread of it, and the inability to seek medical help, or the fear of seeking medical help, affecting people more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our communities have always been, I wouldn't say like afraid, because we always also say we're undocumented and unafraid, right? But definitely scared for the fear of being separated from our families and potential deportation, and now contagion, right? The detention centers are incredibly overcrowded, and we're already seeing stories of COVID-19 spreading in them. And as I say in my monologue that is read by Maria Hinojosa, this is inhumane. I mean, we're taking good parents, good people, and exposing them and their children to death. So I think this would stop now if citizens across this country knew their undocumented neighbors. Right.
I'm always curious about how people's kind of personal experience makes them view kind of the behaviors of the people around them, because I think we all uniquely, as individuals, even amongst communities of our own, look at, I grew up in Kentucky, so when a bunch of rednecks are running around in Kentucky and Tennessee and Georgia, flouting social distancing, flouting wearing masks and all that stuff, I see it from a perspective of my own about, who's behaving in a helpful manner and who is not. The other question is, what about, in the undocumented community? Is there any, is there an aspect of that? Are people dealing with the fact that some people are taking it more seriously than others, even amongst the community?
I think the difference is that there's a lot of, I think most of the community understands that COVID is a real danger.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we are the domestic workers, and we need to be able to pay our taxes, to contribute to society, and take care of our families. This country often acts like we're some sort of economic parasites. And I allude in my autobiographical monologue read by Jose Andres about how, whether it's through COVID or pre-COVID or after COVID, we contribute just as much or more. And what ends up happening is that we have to take these, whether or not we believe that COVID is real, we still have to put our lives in danger. We still have to go out and do the work in order to make sure that our families are taken care of and we are financially taken care of as well. That it's sort of insane just how crazy it is right now, and how much we have to think about our lives or work.
Right. And the fact that you are taking care of everyone else by doing this, by putting your life on the line, by, working in, the food service industries, or as healthcare workers, or as all these essential jobs, you're helping strangers, many of whom may not be taking this seriously, who don't recognize the benefit that they are gaining from the work that you're doing, and the fact that they're putting your life and others like you in danger in the process by ignoring, social distancing, by ignoring wearing masks, by not, by going out in large crowds, that kind of stuff, when they do not have to. And so I wanted to have you guys on. I appreciate you being here with us today. We have to, we're at the break and a little over, but that's fine. It was good to have you guys with us. Again, it's shoeboxstories.org is where you can go. It's called the Undocumented America series. And Alejandro and Tanya, I'm so happy to have you guys on. I appreciate you coming on with us. And good luck and be safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. We'll be back after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. More of your calls right after this. WCPT820.com is the website. And, of course, sexyliberal.com, which is where you can find all these Sexy Liberal podcasts, including the Hal Sparks Radio podcast, Mega Worldwide, our short, truncated, easier to listen to part of the show with fewer digressions about drumming during the breaks. Yeah, which is sad. We'll be back. Thank you, Tanya and Alejandro. I don't know if they're still on, but yeah, they got them in there. So cool. Whoops. I can type. I can type. I can, do you do the thing where you capitalize 2 letters on the beginning of everything when you type? Like my
perpetually.
Yeah. It's such a frustrating thing that it's like I forget somebody else, like here who is it? I forget. Somebody had a podcast, and their name of their podcast, the first 2 letters were capitalized because of that very thing, or whatever. It was like a subtle dig.
No.
Yeah, but they just either they did that, just left it. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, this guy Chris, who's friends with Jackie Schachner, set that up for us, which was cool.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 60 guys, and you got 1 caller left, Hal.
Ooh. I was up late last night. I yawned. I apologize. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I can put that away, put my notes away. Hi, chat room. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Are we... everything, audio, videos, everything's working. Everything seems okay. Never heard of it. King David Lane is double tapping. We got almost 400 people in the chat room, folks. Thank you for joining us, for one. Love that you're here. Please give a thumbs up on the YouTube page if you could, infotainmentwars.com. Give us a thumbs up there. That really helps us out. Consider becoming a Patreon subscriber if you could. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Super helpful. I'm just saying. Just putting that in there, just as a thing.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I hope that's not live. Who wants to work at 6 o'clock on a Saturday?
It is.
It is live. That's amazing. It is. Well, poor Devin. I'd pre-tape that and see what happens tomorrow. I'd be like Steve Martin in L.A. Story. So pre-tape the weather.
Time, tell you about your new time slot, Hal.
Oh no! Wah, wah. Who do we have on the line, Devin? Live show
Chris
being what it is.
Valentine.
Excellent. Hey, Chris.
Hello?
Hey, yeah, go ahead. Welcome.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, Hal. I just heard a bing. Anyway, talking about Tara Reid, and I know you saw.
Were we?
Well, I am.
Okay. All right.
First of all, Politico had a devastating, article about her yesterday about, that she's a fairly deceitful person. One thing that, and then also looking at the PBS NewsHour last night, they were showing the hallway that was allegedly occurred. And,
right.
It's a very public area.
Right.
Offices everywhere, police everywhere. I mean, people walking back and forth. But one thing that hasn't been mentioned, and women in the 90s, and probably today, and still today, I assume, we used to wear pantyhose.
Right. Well, it was apparently part of the. It was like sort of dress code for like everybody from pages to senators and whatnot. Like everybody was supposed to dress a certain way. So pantyhose were the norm. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that.
The norm for women. Period. I mean, in my 55 years or so of being involved with women, very, very few wore nylons and garter belts. Only on a regular basis, maybe for some special occasions and things like that. But other than that, the normal wear was pantyhose rather. And she claims that Biden penetrated her vagina. Well, considering the pantyhose goes up above your hips,
it covers you entirely, right?
And probably up to the middle of the waist. It would be extremely difficult to reach in under there, particularly with a tight skirt. And
I know. I went to high school.
Yeah, right. Trust me.
Yeah, right.
And high school, college, and dating, etc. But so it's extremely difficult, to physically be able to do what she claims happened to her over a very short period of time. So, then of course when anybody attacks, talks about it or questions it, it's now, well, how dare you question me?
Right.
As though somebody should automatically believe everything she says because, after all, she said it, and men are automatically guilty because men are pigs.
Right. Well, the issue that I believe that if a person comes forward with an allegation of sexual assault or sexual harassment, they should be heard out. That should be the believe all women part was believe them when they're making their allegations, I think. Then you vet what they're saying like any other human being. You don't believe all people who say they were mugged. I always blitz on her name, but the woman who said that she was a black male stole her children and drove off in the car, carjacked her and took her car when she had really driven it into the lake herself. If she had been honest about what had happened, there was some theory at one point that the children, it took a long time for them to perish. They might have found them in this process, but she lied and she said that someone had done something to her that they frankly had not. And so the idea that the point is, I believe, and this should be the standard, when someone comes forward with those kind of allegations, you hear them out. You don't immediately, while they're telling their initial story, when they start telling you the story, go, wait a minute, in the middle of them telling it. You hear them out. This is, good. You do this with most criminal proceedings. Why wouldn't you do it with sexual assault or sexual harassment? You hear them out, and then you vet what they have said, and you weigh that against what they are saying. And in this case, I think that is abundantly what occurred. And I really do appreciate Biden. When he answered it again, he was on. I think it was. I forget, either Morning Joe or one of these things was the first one. That then he came on, I think it was Lawrence's show, and we asked him about it again. And one of his answers was, look, I'm saying unequivocally it didn't happen, but here's the thing. If you believe her, don't vote for me, because if I believed her, I wouldn't vote for me, which was a really fascinating, telling way to do this. And I, what I think that's the most you can do in that circumstance when you're the accused, is say that, like, look, I'm defending what I'm saying, but I'm not going to attack a woman flat out. I'm simply going to say it didn't happen. I'm not going to attack people who come forward. I'm not going to say women lie. I'm not going to say that, you shouldn't, listen and vet what's said. There is a fine line to be walked when someone is accusing you of something like this. And I've never seen it walked so finely by someone as I've seen Joe Biden do it. And I appreciate the fact that he said, look at, yeah, go ahead.
I gotta say, I think that there should also be a certain amount of, credibility involved. Like, for example, some Republican's daughter claimed that Biden molested her at or made a comment about her breast size.
Right, at an event he was not at.
He wasn't at.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that should be just laughed out and just told exactly.
Well,
that it was totally
agree.
Ridiculous.
Right.
I
agree.
It should absolutely be condemned for lying.
Right. Or anyone who. Yes. And I also think there's always the danger of, and this is the problem that I think most of us have, and why the thinner line, it's always more difficult on the Democratic side because you are trying to be as inclusive as you can of people who are genuinely affected by this stuff, while weeding out the bad actors in it. It is why Democrats, when they care about fraud in Medicare and Medicaid, are more serious about it than Republicans who care about fraud in Medicare and Medicaid, because they're just using it as a prerequisite to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid, whereas Democrats really do want to, bifurcate out the little fraud that there is and keep it from negatively affecting the system or weighing it down or taking much needed funds from people who do it. And the same thing is true of allegations of sexual assault and sexual harassment. The initial reports need to be taken seriously, but when someone is making it up or is falsifying a story to affect someone, that is a criminal act and should be treated as such. But in the doing so, you shouldn't do it in a way that scares people with real stories that they're worried they don't have enough information, enough evidence of other than their personal experience to make them fearful of coming forward. And that's the fine line that you walk in these kind of situations. It is a very dangerous circumstance. And you're always on thin ice with this conversation. And because it is highly complex, it deals with personal interactions with people on a gradation of experience, one person's experience of that and what they believe the other person might have wanted in that situation, misread signs, all that reality mixes in with abject sexual assault and abject lying about it to control or manipulate a circumstance and attack someone. So the entire spectrum of humanity exists in there, and that's why we have rule of law. And that's why we as people, when we're looking at media, especially stuff that shows up on social media, and I've said this a bunch of times, whether it be, videos of violence, whether it be allegations of sexual assault, whether it be, drink Clorox, it will cure you of COVID-19. When those stories start coming up and they get boosted because they are narrowly cast at people who will be susceptible to either one side or the other of the particular argument that person is selling, you have to start weighing those things. It's why I say what I say about the statistics versus the actual number, like the percentage versus the individual number, why you need both or you don't have the whole story. The same thing is true in this circumstance with the Tara Reade story. And for me, I think the important thing is that it did vet itself out over time, but it was in many ways because it happened to go ahead. Somebody that people liked.
But on the other hand, I still read articles out there ad nauseum in the hardcore liberal, leftist press, saying, well, Biden's tainted, so therefore he needs to be thrown out. He needs to resign. He needs to withdraw.
That's the leftover Bernie crowd that are hoping that what Bernie did was he didn't drop his campaign, he suspended it, and what'll happen is if Biden gets broomed out, he's next. Sanders is next in line to pick up, and he'll that's how you make him the nominee. So people are within the Bernie crowd were floating that story higher than it deserved, higher than its vetting, made it deserve. They were floating that to try and bring Biden down within it so that it would give Bernie, then Bernie would ignite his plan again and his campaign again, and then he would do it. That's not going to happen, flat out. And I do think, I do think it's important to, like I said, when someone comes forward, hear them out. Then look into the physical circumstances, get as much evidence of the physical circumstances as you can. And then if there's not enough of the physical circumstances, you need to hear from both parties. Then from both parties, you need to vet whether or not they are trustworthy or their recollections are the same. And then out from that, you need other witnesses who may have either heard the story or heard about the story and how that story lines up over time. So that anytime one of these stories comes up, that is a proper and respectful way of dealing with allegations of this sort, that both honor the true victims and also make sure that people don't take advantage of the fact that you want to honor true victims and lead you around by your nose and make you, attack, vilify, or destroy people that didn't deserve it. And that's how you do it. That's what, and it's your own personal version of a grand jury. An investigation, a grand jury, and a jury. In your own mind, that's how you go through these steps. And the one thing I think we need to push back against, and we must always, that's the lesson in this, is that when someone comes forward to HR or to the police, that when they are telling their story of what happened, without filling any gaps for them, they are allowed to speak what happened to them and explain to it and give all the details without interruption or judgment by the people taking their statement. That's the thing I think that was missing throughout all of this, and that is going forward, the most important lesson for law enforcement and the most important lesson for HR departments and also for the people who are hearing these stories is that if the story turns out to be false and that the person was using this. I know, but I'm saying other stories. If not Tara Reid, I believe that she was lying, and I believe her story is false. But because I listened to it, you'll notice I didn't comment on it for a good long while because I wanted to hear it all vet out, and it did. The same thing with when somebody comes forward about Kavanaugh, comes forward about anyone else. There are these stages, but the primary thing we all need to practice as a society and have our law enforcement professionals do, and people in HR and business do, is listen to people who come forward with these kind of allegations fully, because if they're telling the truth, you will have all the details without any manipulation by the person taking the statement. And if they are telling a false statement, you will also hear all this without the person helping them get their story tighter so that they can attack a person that maybe that person in HR doesn't particularly like either. That's you need all the details from the alleged victim in this circumstance without any extra padding by anyone, or without them cutting the story up before it is fully told. That I think is the case. Campus police, real police, when someone comes forward and they have a statement to give, bite your tongue and let them tell their full story and get all the details necessary so that when you do investigate it, you have everything to it and they've said everything. So they can't, if they change their story later or or it's been altered or that you find out something that they told someone else, a different story, you have all of their statement to compare that against. And that's, I think, super important. I appreciate you calling in about this. We rode over into the break a bunch or whatever, but I appreciate you bringing it up. And like I said, I think this is a good story of one of those where it was, she was not telling the truth and it was publicly vetted. And I think, but Biden benefited from the fact that a lot of people like him and are very hopeful for his campaign. So they may have heard him out a little better on this than they might not, if it's someone they don't like. And we have to be aware that this will happen to people you don't like as well. And again, the crucial part, police and HR, campus police, they need to hear the whole story from the person without interrupting them. We got to take a break. We'll be back. I think, you
You struck a nerve, Hal. All but one phone line is open. Or, I mean,
yeah,
is full.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no doubt. So, let's see. Let's not forget about the 9 Democrats who voted for the surveillance. Let's just bitch about Bernie not showing up. I've missed that's the middle of a conversation there. Happy we had more women step up. Okay, I'm reading the chat room over here. I got to move that behind. It's behind my stand, and I can't read the stuff, and it's crazy. And hi, everybody, and thank you. It's always a difficult conversation to have, but it's, you know, having it is the most, you know, important part. And not being able to have it is how, like, Pizzagate came about, you know, is how, you know, because nobody wants to feel like they are stepping on someone who's talking about, you know, child sexual predators, as if you're siding with them, a child, you know, the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world, if you defend someone you know is being maligned or wrongfully accused. That part is just a huge part. How maybe everyone is wanting to talk about amps, right? Yeah, they want to talk about marshals. Yeah. Trump will be dead by 2024. I don't think he's the healthiest person. This is true. Oh, the prof has a bunch of guitar amps. Look out. Yeah, thanks for putting the link in there, Can't Stop Lying, about the Searching for Skylab documentary. It's on Vimeo. Please check it out. True. Wall Street is engaged in widespread manipulation of mortgage funds. Great. That's what we need right now.
Back in 60, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Add them to Word. Old solar investors. Okay. You know, the biggest problem. Yes, I was reading something. Beg your pardon, guys. So the biggest problem I have, and this is you know, kind of the backside of the conversation about somebody who has a bad reputation for lying or a bad reputation for manipulating, is that sometimes people who've experienced sexual assault, the trauma makes them weird over time, especially when it happened when they were very young. There's a lot to that. It's hard. Oops.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the Mega Worldwide Radio Program with Hal Sparks.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's the Hal Sparks Radio Program, Mega Worldwide. We got apparently full lines. What a surprise. So much so that it's making my computer cook right now. Who do we have first, Evan?
First, we have Alan out in Indiana.
Excellent. Hey, Alan.
Yeah, hey, Hal. I think this is going to affect us all since Trump's losing by 6 points. This puts an awful lot of emphasis on Biden. And I think we all have to admit he's got some real serious gaps at this point in his age. And to listen to him, I think there's some real serious stuff that needs to be. Someone's going to have to really be up close to him at all times. And if he doesn't get it, Sanders is another threat for the Democrats, being a socialist. And I think you have to kind of agree they're both dilemmas for Democrats. It would appear that Cuomo comes flying through. What's your opinion?
Well, I'm not as worried about Biden as no, I'm not as worried about Biden. Like his stammer issue is obviously an issue as he gets older, but it's not like he has a cognitive difficulty understanding the seriousness of an issue or how to handle it. And the fact that he is good at coordinating the people who need to do the jobs that are getting done has a lot more to do with the executive power of the presidency than some sort of like magically coming up with ideas. Which is what Trump does all the time. I would argue, having watched Trump every single day for the last 60 days, especially because I live stream all of his gatherings, that the whole like Biden cognitive issue thing that they've been pushing is largely to protect the fact that Trump, if anybody, is showing that kind of cognitive decline. His repetition, his inability to kind of understand complexity, his kind of knee-jerk reaction. If you just hear him, the number of times he's told the story about shutting it down, which he does 3-4 times in the same speech sometimes when he goes off on his own, is reminiscent, I think, of Reagan's second term when he was already in primary dementia. According to his doctors and his daughter, who, I was friends with after that fact. So I'm not that concerned about him, and I don't think he's going away in that time soon. My concern is at his age, both him and Bernie and others, is at their age that they're more susceptible to COVID-19 possibly, and that's a danger, that we have to, recognize as a reality. But his ability to grasp and understand the complexity of an issue is not, I don't think anybody finds that that's the issue. So I'm not, that doesn't worry me in that regard. And if you watch if you worry about like him or whatever, watch his last debate with Bernie Sanders or whatever. There was not an issue there at all. Chit-chatting to a camera is difficult for a lot of people if you don't do it normally, especially if you're more of a people person. Like some people are just great at it, others aren't. Some people are better at prepared statements. Other people are off the cuff. It's just a different thing. That, again, I'm not worried about that. What I'm concerned about is that being 6% and people, especially on the hyper left, pushing this, the like Tara Reade stories or other stuff in an attempt to chip away at that number. So we get within 4%, and it makes it easy for them to steal by denying polling places and say the election was close and it was all ballot harvesting and the Democrats lied and cheated and a bunch of undocumented people voted and therefore Trump gets to stay in office. That's what worries me more than anything else. A shaved chimpanzee is a better choice for presidency than Donald Trump. And the danger of having him continually. Yeah, right. That's true. The danger of Donald Trump in office is an existential threat to our democracy. And the idea that we have to worry about, Biden not surrounding himself with decent people who know how to do their job and who won't, getting rid of, the cronyism that Trump has thrown in, just getting rid of Bill Barr in and of himself and getting rid of, and the fact that the next president is going to pick Ruth Bader Ginsburg's replacement. We're not having a conversation about my fears about Biden's stammer are nowhere near my concerns about what happens to the United States and the courts and the Senate and everything else under another Trump, 4 more years of him. It's not even close. It's an absurdity. That does not worry me at all. And that push for it is that's not an issue. I mean, listen to me, half the time when my computer stuff isn't working at home and I'm trying to fix it and, get everything back up online, life happens. It doesn't bother me. So anyways, let's take another caller. It's, actually, we have another minute to take a break. Let's take an early break right now. Because I know we have a bunch more callers on the other side. And we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. My computer is cooking, so it's choppy on the internet right now. Smoothing out because I'm literally using my own hands as a heat sink. Just pulling the heat away from it. It's working, though. It's working. I'm cooling it using my own hands. Happy ending, right? It's a hard one to, today's show blazed by. It was good. It's one of those things, like, you can tell, like, it's always the same amount of time, but when it goes by fast, you're like, okay, we were firing on all cylinders. It's nice. Why is this the first time I've heard about the stutter is my question, but then again, advancing age can enhance it. He did work with people who have a stutter. He works with an organization that helps kids with speech impediments. He's done it his whole life. Thank you, Amy. Yeah. Oh, I've taken my vitamins today for sure. That's why he was talking about, he had a huge stutter as a kid, and there's a preacher that it was known as the stuttering preacher, and he came to Mark Savard, who's Summer worked with, and the hypnotist, and he cured him of it. Came to the show, and Mark cured his stutter. He'd been known as the stuttering preacher. Guys. It was like his shtick, kind of, like, people knew him, for it, and it was like his challenge. And he had, he cured him. We were talking for a while, like maybe Mark could come and hit Biden, because as he's getting older, it's going to be a thing he's going to have to deal with just because of all the other stuff. I am indeed talking to you, Amy Wright. I appreciate it. And thank you for sending Camden's birthday card. That was very sweet.
Aww.
I prefer the farting preacher. Don't we all? Michael, what was his name? Tipton? Yeah. Roger Tipton? What was his name? Yeah. That was like the first viral video I remember.
What?
The farting preacher?
Oh yeah, probably. God, I love that.
We all watched that endlessly when the internet first started up. That was Tilton.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending. Yay!
Yes, the happy ending is that we were all reminded during the break of Robert Tilton, who was famously one of these TV preachers who was found to have, like, they took the checks for the prayer requests out of the envelopes and just threw the whole thing in the trash, and there was, like, just a grifter. There was this video came out. It was probably the first viral video I remember, Johnny. I think you remember it too. Like when internet first started happening, and you could send videos. The version of it because he speaks in tongues, allegedly, Robert Tilton does.
Yeah, there's two versions.
Yes, so they put in fart sounds, which I am fully against. I don't think that's respectful, Johnny, and you should not in any ways. Those are completely organic. We do not, the farting preacher video, that'll be our happy ending today. Just go seek that out if you need a laugh, and we all do during these dark times. We've got time for a couple more callers in here. Who do we have first, Devin? I'm sure we'll be able to
Next
get through more
Peter
than one.
Out in Chicago.
Right. Hey, Peter. Welcome.
Hey, Al. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Real quick.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I'm fine, thanks. Real quick. It's finally nice to see Democrats wanting due process for people accused of sexual assault. You certainly didn't afford that to Brett Kavanaugh. And two,
and by the way, hold on. I just made the case that this must apply to people that you don't like as much as the people you do like.
Yeah,
but it's the uninterrupted listening. Yes, the uninterrupted listening to the person who has something to say first before you start cutting what they're saying apart. Let them get the entire statement out, so you're not leading or cutting before that happens. That's a crucial part of any witness or victim. And if you feel that wasn't done in the Brett Kavanaugh case, you didn't hear it from me. Is my point. Go ahead.
It's not a matter of feeling it wasn't done. It wasn't done. Did Tara Reid come out and admit she was lying? I didn't hear that. You said that it's been proven false. Did you come out and say it didn't happen?
No, but
Biden's certainly hiding all his documents. He won't release them.
He's not hiding all of his documents.
Could.
He said if there was anything was
playing the game.
Well, no. Okay, this goes towards like the email server idea. That if, let's say, I break into your email server, right? I break into yours. Got it? This is the premise where I operate in there, and I release some of your emails that make you look bad. And the way I do it is I add a sentence to every one of the emails that I release that weren't in the original emails. But in my release of them, because I photocopy them and send them out. The only way you can prove that that's not what you said is to give everyone access to your email account, your entire email account.
But here's.
Would you do that?
Hal, here's the point.
Would you do that?
Again, that's not even the same thing we're talking about.
Sure,
there are files that are in the Delaware. No, Delaware has his files. She said she filed a complaint. She filed a complaint with the Senate.
She said she filed a complaint with the Senate, and she ended up not naming him, and there was no mention of sexual assault or sexual harassment.
But Biden certainly is against having any of his documents released.
No, not any of his documents. That's not true. That's not true. No. That's not true. No, it isn't. He's not against them releasing any of his documents. But I said, are you willing, to prove that 2 of your emails weren't falsified, to give everyone access to all of your emails? All of them.
But that's not
everything about you, everything you've sent, everything unredacted, everything unredacted. Yes, they are. They're saying access to the entirety of it. He said, if there's a report of this, he said, if there's a report of this, if there's a report of this, if there's a report of this, right. She did not make her accusation with Delaware. She made it with the states, with the Senate, with the federal government.
Let's move on here since time is short. If you don't think Biden is mentally deficient,
I do not.
You guys, the only reason the Democrats aren't throwing Biden over the gunnels is because Bernie's next in line, and they don't want Bernie.
Do you think Donald Trump? Do you think Donald Trump has any mental deficiencies? You personally, do you believe it?
No.
You do not.
He's a narcissist. You do. But no.
He's a narcissist.
Really,
is he truthful? Is he truthful? He is truthful. You believe he is truthful?
Al, he's as truthful as any other politician in Washington. So is Biden going to...
No, I wouldn't put him up. You're going to put him up against Ron Wyden? You're going to say that he's going to say the exact same thing as even, on your side, Rand Paul, I suppose, who's voted against stuff that his own party wants? I'm no fan of the guy, but I think at least he says what he really thinks. That happens? No. I asked you if he was truthful, not if he was as truthful. No, I didn't ask you. I asked you if he was truthful, not if he was relatively. Yes.
Did you see Biden on the campaign stump when he announced he was running for the U.S. Senate? The guy's nuts.
No, he was telling a story about the first time he ran. No. That video clip that they played a bunch of times, he did too. He was talking about the first time he ran. This reminds him of the first time he ran, and that was the anecdote and story he was telling, and they cut the top part of it out. Yes, they did. Like, come on. Come on. He doesn't think he's... Do you think he thinks he's running for the Senate? Do you think... Wait, no. Do you think he thinks he's running for the Senate?
Not running for the Senate, but
do you think he thinks that? He didn't answer me. Answer me. Do you think he thinks he's running for the Senate right now?
At that period of time, he said he was. So
right.
The point is, Hal...
He was telling the story of when he first ran for the Senate.
He doesn't know... Hal,
I'm listening.
COVID-19 is the biggest gift Biden's ever had. If he was on the campaign trail,
this is convenient. Drop in audio. The biggest gift he's ever seen, because his opponent is disregarding the deaths of 89,000, 90,000, 100,000, 140,000 Americans that he literally, Donald Trump repeatedly, daily over the last. We will be. That's the most conservative number. The last you heard it was 70,000? You just said last you heard it was 70,000.
72,000, I think it was. Is that correct? Am I incorrect on that?
You're incorrect. You're now running for the Senate.
Okay, what's
we are
the
currently
actual number?
The actual number currently, and I'll get the official one as of today.
You can ballpark it. Okay.
Over 88,000 people. Human beings, Americans. We will hit 100,000 by the end of the month. We will hit 140,000 by the beginning of August. That is at a bare minimum. That's not including the release of mitigation, which this president, hold on, no. We're going to talk about this for a second because he's your guy. Trump is your guy. You're backing your guy. You said he's truthful. Donald Trump repeatedly over the last 2 months, every single day he's had one of these gatherings, had said, we get points because we didn't have 1 to 2.2 million deaths in this country. That was the CDC and everyone else's projection if we did absolutely nothing. Donald Trump actually thinks that doing absolutely nothing, no mitigation, no protection, no getting PPE to medical professionals, no limiting contact with people, no social distancing, that doing that is an option. As a human being, Donald Trump thinks that that's possible, that that's a road to go down, and that he gets points for just doing the baseline of his job. He's a moral embarrassment. He's a liar. And every single day he is pushing people back out on the street with total disregard for their lives because he believes this is his only chance to Hail Mary and get to win the election. He thinks if we don't have a second wave magically because it washes through and it turns out to be seasonal, that by the time the next wave comes, we will already be into the election and some of the economy will come back. And the second crash from it will be after he has won the election.
Three of the most liberal governors in the country, Newsom, Cuomo, and I forgot the guy's name in New Jersey, have all come out and said that Trump has done a wonderful job.
No, they said the federal government has done a job, and they've mentioned every single time because they've mentioned FEMA, they've mentioned the Army Corps of Engineers. No. And all they did was they got a national disaster declaration for their state, and then they started to ignore him. They all did that because if you didn't kiss his ass, you didn't get PPE. If you didn't get it. So why did Donald Trump deny PPE to states that weren't nice to him? Trump's are actually down this week. Is that what you're talking about? While he has pushed the opening, his numbers have actually gone down.
Trump's numbers are constant. He's never gone below 48%. His base is rock solid because we look at the Democrats. Look at the
46, 43 right now, I think.
The bill Nancy Pelosi just passed. $3 trillion of taxpayers' money to do what? To make illegal aliens, give them amnesty, and pile a bunch of money into illegal aliens?
That's what part of the bill was that? What part of the bill was the make illegal aliens get amnesty? Where was that? Did you read it? Did you read what section was that? Did you read the? Tell you what, between now and next time, we're getting close to the end of the show. What I want you to do is call in next week after you've read the Trump pandemic response plan. Go read that, and then tell me what it says, and compare it to the Obama-Biden pandemic response plan, and tell me what the differences are, other than the fact that you can't find the Trump one. Compare those two. Compare what they did. And then if the Trump campaign prepared it in 2018, ran a simulation in August, got an after-action report in October, got the final draft of it in January, and then he goes golfing in February and March and says nobody could have imagined something like this happening, when he had literally had people in his administration supposedly running a game plan of what this would happen last year. You know why? Because he doesn't care. Because he spent 334 years of presidential salary golfing and spending it as his own properties and charging the Secret Service retail to stay at his hotels. It's a joke. He's a joke. Pull your head out of his backside and start caring about the country again. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Johnny, you're awesome. Appreciate it. You looked and sounded great this week. I'm just saying. And Devin, thank you so much. I'm sorry you have to work late on a Saturday. I adore you guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat, everybody out there at infotainmentwars.com. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you guys next week. Stick around for the post show. And if you're listening on the radio, stick around for Dick K. Here we go.
All right, Hal.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Absolutely. No, it was a good time. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Too, Johnny. Take care, guys.
Thanks. My computer was cooking. My computer's I could fry bacon on it right now.
I bet.
Yeah. It's not as choppy on the internet. It's choppy on my screen here, but I'm literally using my own fingers as a heat sink. You know, where you put your hands on it and it gets your hands hot, but it pulls some of the heat away.
Wow.
Yeah. So if I sit here with my hands on it, it'll do that. Whatever. Yeah. That was fun though. That was a good ride. Like, that was so funny. Like, I had to, like, boil down, like, my concern about, aren't you concerned about Biden's cognitive ability? Like, have you watched Trump's gatherings? Have you seen the ridiculousness? It's embarrassing. Like, I don't know how you're not embarrassed.
Yeah, actually, the Trump montages are so brutal. I almost want to just say, look, that's really unfair. Like, if you did that to anybody, you can make them look like an ass. But when you put all of his together, they're insane.
Yeah, it's horrifying. Yeah. Thank you, Norman Fox. I appreciate that as well. And thanks, Ginger, for the super chat. And Mountain Bound, thank you so much. And Jill Carter, thank you. And Brad, thanks, man. More Johnny looking over his shoulder like a god. That's right, because on the camera you're over my shoulder. I don't know if you can see the YouTube feed, but it's pretty sweet. You know, yeah, you're so important right now. It's sweet. Well, it's sweet. Thanks, Totally Jersey. I am indeed a patient man. The thing is, I'm not against, like, conservatives being able to give me their philosophy and hash stuff out and occasionally find a better route if they manage to do so in some sort of 1950s way. I don't know. And occasionally, economic theory-wise, there might be a plus to it. That's not what any of these folks are. These are just Trump
the
cultists.
conversation
They don't
is there
care.
to have, and they leave it on the table every time.
That's right. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, and it's all just like dropping, bombs like he does. You basically
It's all
don't
just
say
what
it's like
about,
Obamagate.
what about?
Well, and it's like Obamagate. Like, people should look into that. And just by saying people should look into that, there's this illusion that there's something to look into then. You wouldn't say look into that if there wasn't something to look into. Well, yeah, you would. That's exactly why you would say it. If there was something to look into, you'd say what you were talking about. But like the stuff he said with Scarborough about the girl who died in his office, who, had she had a heart arrhythmia and blacked out, hit her head and died. She was a girl who worked in Scarborough's congressional office down there. It's like a really sad story. But that's what he's saying, is when he's saying Cold Case Joe and all that kind of stuff. That's what he's talking about. Like, he's trying to draw that. And like, please, like, where's Joe Scarborough's video of him making Jeffrey Epstein laugh? Yeah, the whole people say. That's right, Brad in our chat. People are saying, these people say this. A lot of people, very respected people. No, name them. It's like the governors. Like, some of the governors are against testing. No, they're not.
Really?
No,
Which
they're
one?
not. None. You saw the one, the Trump thing where he said he's, if you test, you get more cases. Did you see that clip? We don't want to test because if you test, you get more cases. And that's why testing is bad. Some people think testing is bad because we wouldn't have all these cases if we weren't doing all this testing. Like, how stupid.
Yeah, I have to agree with him.
Honest to God. So Joe Biden's on a live stream, inverts some words or replaces some words, which I see people on the news do all the time. People doing live interrupt, young people of all ages doing this kind of
I
stuff.
work in customer
I
service.
do it sometimes.
I do it daily.
Yeah, exactly. And floating that kind of stuff. I do it. I've reversed stuff. Like, even when I was trying to remember how many tons of PPE we sent to China in March, you know, when we sent that, it was 17.8 tons. And I kept going, is it 12? Because in my head, I saw the 7 as a 2. Or I was like, is it 12.6? What's the number? And I knew it for a while, but I forgot it. And then I knew it again. That kind of stuff.
And then there's all those times when instead of saying my name, you say penis.
That's true. That's true. But I don't say it. I do the sign language for it, but which is completely justified. Meanwhile, line that up, literally line up Biden's stammer or his you know, when he's in mid-story or whatever, and he's telling a bunch of stuff and he's talking to, you know, 10 different people on the internet, and you invert one fact that you know the real fact, but you just kind of misspeak. Those kind of things. Line up all those moments. Line them all up. Stack them in a giant video. And then put that up against, you know, the only reason we have this many cases is because we do this testing. If we weren't testing, we wouldn't have all these sick people. Like, line that moment up against any misspeak, any number of misspeaks, and understand that Biden believes what's real and occasionally flips a word like a malapropism. And Trump believes something that is frigging insane.
Yeah.
He
believes any catchphrase he heard on Fox within the last
if we stop
like
testing,
180 seconds.
We would stop, there would be fewer deaths if we stopped testing. If we stopped looking.
Have you seen, what's her name? Desi something from the Today Show? When she'll watch Fox News, not the Today Show, I'm sorry, from the Daily Show. She will watch Fox News for 48 hours straight and then like Fox-plain a conspiracy to you.
Right. No, but
it's
I've
brilliant
done that with some of
she
the
gets
internet
super
stuff.
manic as it goes on and like just really dials it up. But she throws in enough of the facts to make you go, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to find a link and share it with you.
Please do. But like I said, there is a huge difference between saying, you know, N1H1 instead H1N1 and not believing that it exists in the first place. There's a huge difference. And again, if you went to Joe Biden, you said H1N1, you meant, or you said N1H1, you meant da-da-da. See, even I reversed it when I meant to invert and reverse it. You meant to say, did you mean to say H1N1? He would go, oh yeah, yes. What did I say? Yes, that's what I meant to say, H1N1. Like he would have a normal moment like that, like we all do. Donald Trump would go, no, it's called, you know, you like to call it. You call it, and, you know, everybody else calls it. I call it N1H1 because if you think about it, it's, you know, it's so true. So much
we have it on
truer than the
recording.
true.
Oh, who knows what recordings of fake news has.
Yeah, it's all fake news because is it on CNN? Yes, it's videotape of you that CNN is playing. Well, it's obviously fake. Like, yeah. And, you know, there's a bunch of people. Yeah, you can sign off. I adore you.
All right, you keep post-showing.
I will.
All you people out there, brush your teeth.
That's right. If you got to wear a mask, it's imperative.
Yes.
Just
man, it really
breathe
is.
in your own breath. That's rough.
And
Everybody's flossing
I'm about to
again.
go to a store and fog up some glasses.
Yeah, that's right. You got to get some goggles, man. That's why all the people in Mad Max and stuff wear those, you know, wear goggles. They wear those, you know, those kind of like, remember those glasses we wore in the 90s, in the late 80s that went all the way back to your eyes for a little while, the round ones?
Yeah.
That was kind of hip for a short while? I'm just saying.
I remember that. I need some prescription goggles. You're right.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. Well, just put them on over top, or get those old folks ones. You know, the ones that stick to your face, the whole ones that look like, I've just had my eyes dilated. I've got surgery at 7. Look out, where are you going, you maniac? Box.
I almost slipped into Mr. Magoo.
Oh, did I? It's weird because I thought I was slipping into Judge Janine, which is, you know, there's a thin line between Mr. Magoo and Judge Janine. Who knew?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. All right. I will talk to you later. Bye.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye. There we go. Bye. There goes Johnny. Excellent. And my computer relaxes a little bit because it's not cooking. Oh, that was today. Oh, he sounded. Oh. Got robot-y and then it didn't. Okay, good. All right. Well, hopefully we're okay. Yay. Hi, everybody. What's happening? Okay, get back in here in the chat. Everybody, welcome. Thanks. Let's see. There we go. New mentions in there in the chat or in the live thing. There we go. Good times. And I'm gonna hop into the pros channel on there for anybody who wants to hop into the Discord. That one's open and running as well. If not, it's good to have you just in the regular chat. Hi everybody, thank you guys so much. Supreme Court Judge Janine, if we don't vote, no kidding. How you sounded like my aunt, that's creepy. Thanks, well, it's a good one. You know, I forget who it was. Wesley Clark, General Wesley Clark. Sounds just like my grandmother. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Richard. Wow, I appreciate that. And I especially appreciate your amazingly severe avatar. It's impressive. It looks like a headshot that Werner Herzog would have taken for you. It's really impressive. Thank you. Appreciate that, you guys. That's impressive. And thanks everybody for the super chat and the support. We're at I think we're at 267 on the Patreons right now, which I greatly appreciate. You guys, I love you for that support. It's fantastic. I had where is it in my overlays? I had somewhere in there, but we'll see. Bounced it out. We had our little storyline thing. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, thank you guys for the super hearts. And if you're on Periscope, throw those my way. That really helps immensely because that ends up boosting us. Still hard looking. Yeah, it's good. It's a good look. Patreons assemble. Yeah. So this was, yeah, today was fascinating. The last hope they have is drawing attention away from, Trump's ridiculousness. Let me see if I can get out of studio, get in a studio mode on here and see if I can fix something while we're working, because this ends up being a tricky part of this whole thing. Why are you not jumping to it? Come on, come on. What are you doing? I don't know that it does it. Am I getting out? All right. We'll see. I don't know if I can commentary this kind of thing or what it'll show up. It's weird. Thanks, Bumblebee Yellow. Yeah, 267 patrons right now. Thank you. Our goal is 500. Please join us and stick around if you can. I greatly appreciate it. It helps as a regular thing. One of the other things you can do is if you're a YouTube Prime member, you can subscribe to the Twitch channel. That helps us out as well and doesn't cost you anything. And also, I think you has to do listen to me. You have to you do it monthly. It's not automatic. Air Biden's pedo sniffing head videos constantly. Yeah, but that's nothing compared to literally Trump hanging out with Epstein and making Epstein laugh so hard that Epstein goes, dude, wow. If you can embarrass and make Jeffrey Epstein uncomfortable, please. Hey, Amos. Did I say Amazon Prime? What did I say? Miles away. See, I'm getting all gibberishy because I'm trying to read and do the same thing. Happen to anybody. There, I made my own point. Congratulations. I was trying to open that, for whatever reason, studio in, where are you? Yeah, it just doesn't want to do it. It's odd. Okay. Tough, I guess. That's just life. I was going to bring up this business. Let's see if I can go into commentary. Oh, it's just not letting me choose anything. Something's wonky. All right, well, I guess this is the shot until the end of the show. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. I have no electronic money. Yes, we have no electronic money. I love being a Patreon and doing super chats. Oh, thank you, Amy. That's awesome. The fact that Dems had a different standard, heals up Harris, demolished her candidacy. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious Yeah, I do have a lot of pages open. I'm curious about how, Kamala Harris's, she polls the best as far as a potential running mate for Biden, and Warren's up there as well. And again, the issue with them is, obviously California is not so much a concern. If Kamala Harris is not a senator in California will more than likely have another Democratic senator and it'll be fine. Elizabeth Warren's seat, though, is not guaranteed at all. That's the biggest part of it. I've never seen The Big Lebowski, so me and the hubby are going to watch it after House. Oh my God, Shell Bell. You almost have to. Hey, Hal, are your daily shows the same every day? They are normally. I've moved it to 3 o'clock Pacific time. And that's the regular thing, except for Thursdays, which it's on at 4 o'clock. And then, of course, our Saturday show is different. Sundays, I will do a kind of loosey-goosey gathering if there's something to talk about, like we got together with Carl last week, those kind of things. But right now, we are Monday through Friday, 3 o'clock, except for Thursday, which is 4 p.m. And then if there's other stuff that comes up, like they had Dr. Bright's testimony, I'll hop on and just do that live because we have the ability to do that. I'm not, a network. So, but thank you for asking, Richard. That's the part that's sort of slowly evolving and becoming a normal part of our experience in this. So, yeah. Massachusetts votes weird at times, and they have a GOP governor to boot. That's my only problem with Warren, who I love also. Yeah, Billy, I think that was part of the issue. All conversations about, women running and all the necessary conversations about that happening. One of the other things that Warren had against her was the fear of losing her Senate seat to somebody else that, they very well could put a Republican in there, in a special election right away. And then if we gain let's say the governor puts in a Democrat because that's what the will of the voters had been last time, but then they put in a special election and intentionally hamstring it, and then we lose the Senate again, and right after we'd gotten it. So that was a big concern for a lot of voters on her as well. And again, when you're in that kind of a race, every percentage point matters. Is it the crucial? Was it 5% of it? Maybe not. Was it 1% of the 8% she was getting, or missing rather, that she needed? That's it. Computers are made to be hot. It's running a one-man radio show. If it stops, I'll send another. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Yes, they are made to be hot. It is. I need it. I'm going to get one of those little ventilators that runs on it. The only problem with doing that is when you do that, it makes a lot of noise. I'm already running another fan in the room. The whole house is freezing. In this room, I could cook bacon on my desk. It's just because of all the stuff I've got going through it. But it is working way better. And I thank you, Rob Glenn, for that very thing. Hey, Jess Dollface, Howdy from Texas. Hal, been watching you since the 90s. Good to run back in you live after years. Well, hi. Well, thanks for being on there. I think it's fantastic. Are you in the Twitch world? Are you, it's hard to see on this thing, but I think so. I think the stream chat on that side only goes from there. So hi, welcome, Jess. That's awesome. You need a server room. I do, with like I need to pump a hole in the air duct and just put it right next to the HVAC unit so the air conditioning just blows right past it. I'd get a portable AC thing, but the noise would be overwhelming. That's the issue with it. So awesome. Well, thanks for watching on Twitch, Jess. That's great. Cooling fan under my lap. I have one too. I've got one running right now. I don't know that it's strong enough. So that might be that'll be the next Patreon purchase. You think I should get one? You think I should get a bigger one? Because I have a little one that's meant for like sitting it on your lap and, had to update. I understand that. Yeah. I have a little one that's meant to sit on your lap and plug into the USB thing and keep it cool that way when it's sitting there. So yeah. Yes, there are noise filters. But that's another thing the computer has to do. Next step for Hal is a supercomputer. Yeah, I want the whole thing run by AI and just constantly makes my skin look younger and better. Alan, OBS, you can filter sounds. I have one on right now, actually. I don't know what the quality is currently, as far as the quality of my voice, but and all that stuff. But oddly enough, the interface on Streamlabs is frozen, which is fun. Just stopped altogether. Luckily, it's still streaming, so I'm not going away. But yeah. Did we get any damage? No, there was a big earthquake, a 6.4, I think it was, but halfway between here and Reno. And yes, I do need a 2,000 square foot office instead of this. I'm already squunched in here. I use half the room. This office is already small. It's a bedroom in the house, and it's already smaller. And I squeeze it even smaller by having this green screen up. But thanks, Jess. It's weird. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm holding it together. I have my tired days. Thank you for putting that back up, Kansas Blind. Yeah, the Undocumented America series at shoeboxstories.org is the podcast that the DACA recipients that we had on earlier do their story on. So thanks for doing that. Here's the kids in order of birth. Josh, twins, Jen, and Jess. What in the world? I don't know what that is. Some sort of Mormon like lineage that Carrie's posting. Good times. Hey, Boise, what's happening? Yeah, everybody who's in here, fire off and let us know who you are and where you are. And then let me do one. I don't know why this wants to do that. That's so weird. I'm going to drag this over. Doesn't do that. Will let me do the chat is oddly movable. So that's strange. What's happening? Bring it down here. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Hard to say. And then we'll take this back up here. This thing is cooking, man. It's good stuff. Yeah, that's super weird. Like, there's some weird error in Streamlabs OBS where it's just like losing its mind. It's adorable. But like I said, we're lucky enough to have the screen up. That's totally fun. Could you post a link on Twitter for that lady caller talking about blood clotting issues earlier, please, Hal? Actually, there was no particular link. Lisa Mia Moore posted it in here, and I think, Lisa, if you're still in there, could you post that again? I'm concerned about the damage at the State Historic Park of Bodie east of Bridgeport, California. Always a concern, Cosmic Rose, but I will say this. Whenever an earthquake affects a historic park, that's part of the history of that park. It's, it's not like us nuking the place. Nature does its thing. So to me, I'm fine with what earthquakes do in natural systems, as long as, people survive and all that kind of stuff. But if it changes the topography or it changes the flow of a river or any of that stuff, that's the earth being the earth. It's up to us to, modify what we're doing around it. When the New Madrid fault went, which goes, around, it goes straight through New York. When it went really bad, in I think 1912 or something like that, I have to look it up. It might have been the 1800s. The direction of the Mississippi River changed for 3 days. How my dad and I are at each other's because he's diet Republican and thinks you are horrible. And I told him if you ever say anything about you, you're gonna be like, I stood up. Oh well, I appreciate that. You don't have to stand up for me. He's allowed to have his opinion of me, and that's totally fine. We like what we like, and we don't hate on what other people like. And if he thinks, I think the only thing that probably happens is a lot of Trump fans think that if you ridicule him, you're ridiculing them, and that's not my intention. I mean, obviously, if you think he's, the original second coming of Miss Jesus, that's a failing on your part. But I don't hate on anybody right out of the gate. But I do think he's in dereliction of duty, and I think that's the whole purpose of what I do every day. As far as those live streams, the rest of my day is not filled with thoughts of Trump. I could care less. 1811. Thank you, not 1911. I appreciate that, Hal Vickery. Thank you. I knew it was in the 1800s, and I was blitzing on that. New House Stimulus bill encourages increasing amount can be deducted for state and local taxes. Right. Yeah, it's supposed to help the states, which ironically, the red states don't want because it helps the blue states get footing again. And they live off the federal government's support anyways. So, they were always in the hole. They don't care. Yep, we have the tech now to eliminate all the damage we're doing there. Still enjoying our lifestyle. Only thing stopping us, the love of money and political will. Yeah, and it's also the fear that it's on a practical note, sort of temporarily impossible. I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen Michael Moore's new documentary, but it's basically as anti-renewable as you could possibly get, which is super weird. Missing the point entirely that when he's talking about like solar power or wind or geothermal as replacements for other sources, not recognizing that the big shift and how renewable benefits long-term is individual houses having solar panels on them as a part of their norm, not giant solar farms. Relying on giant solar farms as the primary way to do it is never going to fill the gap that fossil fuel does. Over time, it's the conversion of on-site electrical usage to renewables as much as possible that cuts the amount of use you get into a manageable or minor level until efficiencies can be raised so highly that it doesn't matter anymore. That's the issue. He's laying it out on giant wind farms, giant solar farms, and in the reality, like white roofs and solar panels would affect our climate circumstance more so than those ever could. Yeah, House Parks, yes, but how many parks are changed with the duty of keeping the town in a state of arrested decay? That's absolutely true, no question. And don't get me started on the people who want to ride ATVs through national parks. Like, kind of low rent backwoods BS is that? Why do cats not do math in the jungle? Because there's too many cheetahs. Cheetahs aren't in the jungle, aren't they? Aren't they more plains cats? But there you go. Folks are slamming new Michael Moore flick as being very superficial. Well, it's just it looks at, it's one of those things that narrowcasts its criticisms and then expands the expects that criticism to be widely applied. It's ridiculous. Post office wanted to go to battery-powered vehicles in 2005, 2006. That's exactly right. So the charging sites, and again, I'm one of the people out there who's been saying micronuclear and thorium-based nuclear reactors are part of the future. And they are a way, especially if the technology's improved and the manageability of it. If you look at the amount of waste and the dangerous level of stuff that the Earth just has in it, that deep burying some of the waste and all that kind of stuff isn't any more dangerous than the lava flows that are under a particular place long term. As long as they're not seeping into the aquifers and all that stuff. You have to manage it. You have to treat it like an adult. But thorium doesn't even produce the weaponizable waste that plutonium reactors do, and uranium. Oh, thank you, Philly Dana. So, I mean, that's a part of our transition into more efficient technologies that are fully renewable. And that's what it is. And we're in a transitional phase of doing this stuff. That's the tricky part. And acting like, the stuff that's coming online, which is increasingly useful, as far as solar panels and wind and geothermal, getting more efficient, more profitable as it develops, because that's how stuff works. You learn from experience. The more experience you have, the more you can learn. The more, even the failures are valuable in that regard, especially in the early days. Watch There Will Be Blood and tell me that oil was somehow a magic bullet from the very beginning, please. So as we learn and get better and things get more efficient and more functional, we can lessen our reliance on those, on fossil fuels, even more so. One of the secondary aspects of the petroleum industry is the amount of plastics that we use, and we need a biodegradable, cellulose-based plastic, somebody needs to lock that in and make that useful, and it's the years and years shelf life thing that everybody pushes back against. But that has to be, that almost more than anything else needs to be, the replacement, replacing our single-use plastics is a huge step that we need to take. So anyways, there you go. So that's that. Sorry, I want to grab what was said in the chat, or I have to scroll back to get that or whatever. Yeah, I jumped on WMMR with Preston and Steve. That was really fun. Those guys are great. I've been on their show a bunch. I love the Helium Club in Philadelphia. It's one of my favorite clubs to perform at. They're good people. I'm doing a thing for them, I think, on July 5th. Yeah. I have all my money in beryllium spheres, right? The Guardian has an article about a biodegradable plastic coming into the market. Oh, that's cool. Is there a link for that, Suzette? Can you send that to me? Jill Carter, thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate that. And I love you guys having social media chats. Ideas on stocks in this field? That's a good question. I'll do due diligence. I don't want to flippantly look something up and express it, but I'll go into that as well, and we'll start looking, should I set up our own hedge fund? Is that what we're going to end up doing by the end of this? Crazy. How about an enzyme that breaks down plastics? There is one. There's a couple of them, Edward Brayman, in the chat that, over the last few years, they've talked about these these enzymes that break them down, bacteria that eat plastic. Super important. I just feel like, where's the horror movie story in that? And they just start eating everything, and it grows out of control. We never realized how much plastic was in everything, and then they get in a hospital and all the ventilator tubes degrade. That kind of thing. It would be better if we knew the content of it, and we knew its particular shelf life. Or it would be nice if it lasts as long as you needed it to, and then you add a compound to it and it goes away, and you do that specifically. So those enzymes are in a controlled system. So you have like a recycling plant where you take that stuff once it's, outlived its usefulness, you send it there and they just pour this chemical on it, and it just turns into, it becomes inert, goes back to its base chemicals, something like that. Would be great. So, yeah, hemp has always been a great option, Maureen, and that's why I've always been a proponent of it. One of the biggest reasons why I was a bit, as for legalization of pot, was because hemp is often its cousin that gets made illegal in the process. Talk about Mitch McConnell being a strange bedfellow, but the reality was, I was pushing for the longest time as hemp as a replacement crop for tobacco in Kentucky for the longest time, and everybody was like, what's the difference between that and weed? And you're like, it's ignorant how much these people don't get it. So anyways, hemp as a responsible replacement for plastics-based stuff would be fantastic. There you go. Yes, Philly Dana, if you come to Philly, I do the Helium Club there. I love that place. I will definitely be back. I have a great relationship with the folks that run all the Helium Clubs. There's one in Portland. There's one in Rochester, New York. They're popping up all over, and I'm a big fan. I'm hoping they open one in Chicago. Yeah, hemp is the one thing that I agree with Mitch McConnell on, or that he finally agrees with me. And hemp does have no downside. It's not it doesn't leach nutrients from the soil. It can grow anywhere. We also need to be pushing community-based food production instead of big ag. So many implications. Yeah, I think there's obviously a balance to be played there. The volume of food necessary for, a nation as big as ours is, and how efficiently you can farm big plots of land in the plain states especially lends itself towards big ag business. But in states, there should be a certain amount of, farming or growth that's, obviously in Arizona, you're not going to have much. So you need other states to make up for that gap. But you're absolutely right. At least within country, there's got to be a ton of that. Yeah. We have these plastic cups at work that are made from corn and break down in a compost heap. That's great, Joe. That would be fantastic if it was more readily available and kind of normalized. One of the reasons you don't see it more common is because bottled drinks in convenience stores, they want them in plastic so they can sit there as long as possible. Victory gardens, we should have never stopped doing that. That's totally true, Can't Stop Lion. I think it's a great idea that Biden should talk about that, My grass-fed beef is always listening to Pink Floyd. my hooves felt just like 2 balloons. Trying to build my ranch to do all this permaculturing. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that the Democrats should start talking about in those terms and introduce bills to do them. Even if they know the Senate is going to shoot them down, tax breaks for victory gardens, You'd be surprised how much you could produce even in the desert. Looking at permaculture experts like Jeff Lawton. Yeah, and one of the things Jess Dollface is that using old, abandoned buildings as, as multi-floor in, like, gardens, these kind of future gardens. They were talking about doing this in Detroit for the longest time. Hemp in your house setting on fire is a bad combination. Well, I mean, it's anything flammable is bad in that situation. So glad we have something other than apples, pears, oranges, and bananas tea. It's so weird that you would prefer, I guess cantaloupe is, if it's ripe, it's good. I like unripened cantaloupe, like when it's too sharp, is nasty. Biden claims any popular idea, Trump will start saying he had that idea last year. That's fine, but you just make a big stink of it. The problem is the implementation is small. You do these kind of light introductions. And Euro Maestro still thinking about StreamYard or something else? Okay, gotcha. You're talking to somebody else. You're on Social Security disability. Well, I hope the payment remains consistent for you, and I am happy to be part of the party that thinks that both Social Security and the ADA is important and valuable, and that the people who are on it and receive those funds are valuable and add quality to our country. Instead of literally like the Jacob Wolls, as they were trying to take down Fauci, saying that, oh, this disease just kills off the weak and nature's just culling the herd. It's good on cantaloupe pepper. Well, Hal Vickery, we'll have to give that a try. By the way, after the show, I'm going to start. We got eggs delivered to the house in groceries yesterday. I'm making my first attempt at the coffee eggs today. I will put picture and video on Instagram of it working. Oh, allergic to bananas. I'm sorry to hear that. I love bananas. I'm a fan. What's your townie guy cooking today? I don't know. I don't know that he does a new thing every single day in that regard. So I'm going to, let's see. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm going to sign off now, guys, and I'll be back on in a couple of hours. I'll come back on at 3 o'clock, and I want the Fox Business interview that Trump did, which is about an hour long. I'll do that as part of the regular day if you guys want to come back and watch that. And it's like, think of it as like tea, eggs, but coffee. Yeah, I like coffee with coffee in it. It's much better that way, Jeff 9Cow. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I like bananas are one of my favorite things. I completely agree. I knew it's yet another thing Can't Stop Lying and I have in common. Big avocado fan. And again, I highly recommend, if you're going to make a grilled cheese, throw in some slices of avocado in there. Learned it from my buddy Matt Dwyer when we moved out to LA together to be starving comics and writers. He always got it that way, and I thought it was disgusting, just the concept, because it was green largely. And it turned out to be fantastic, and I can't imagine eating it any other way now. It's weird when I don't have avocado to put on a grilled cheese sandwich. So, and Natalie's cooking breakfast now, because it's always breakfast. Every day's breakfast. Amy Wright, I appreciate that. I'm a fan of steak and eggs, so I would definitely do that at some point. Is there such a thing as vegan cheese? Of course there is. It's nut based usually. There's cashew cheese. There's almond cheese. Basically, they make a paste and it's using some what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like egg replacers. They can, as a binding agent, they hold it all together and they can cut it into slices. It doesn't melt as well as regular cheese a lot of times, but there's plenty of it, and it's getting way better, way better. And quite frankly, avocado in and of itself is a great cheese replacement on a sandwich if you don't do cheese, if you don't do dairy. Because quite frankly, if you just use avocado and a little bit of powdered sugar, you'll get this, the kind of, or even a little bit of lemon juice, touches of them, because you don't want that much. But the powdered sugar and the lemon juice will sweeten the avocado just enough to give it kind of a overall, like an American cheese kind of a overall flavor. Oh, now Billy Hutchins, everything's better with cheese except oatmeal. I mean, you could argue that maybe there's something to that, because obviously grits you can put cheese in, and they're not all that different. I don't know why it would be that different, Billy Hutchins, although I've never tried it. But rinse your oatmeal before you cook it. That's all I'm going to tell everybody. I know nobody likes to do that, and it's a pain in the butt, but it's worth it. Keeps it from being all foamy. Most of the people who don't like oatmeal don't like it because of the kind of fine grit foam kind of element of it. And if you just rinse it first before you cook it, that makes a huge difference. So, yeah, thanks for the super chats, guys. We're almost at $200 today in the super chats. I really appreciate that. And I will order the, thanks to you guys, I will order the fan system for under the laptop to see if that'll help cool it off. I'll order that today. Hopefully it'll come in the next couple days or whatever, because God knows I'm using my stuff more than, because even when, Rob, I know you're watching, when we started, planning to improve the show, we were only doing this once a week, maybe with an extra, thing for Patreon people every so often. Now I'm streaming every day, twice a day, sometimes 3. So huge difference. Yes, let's see. Yes, they are different, Hal. Grit's good, oatmeal, yuck. Again, it has to do with rinsing. Oh, look, cottage cheese goes with oatmeal. That's interesting. But yeah, oatmeal made in an Instant Pot. I use steel cut. Yeah, like, you know what I'm talking about. Oatmeal gets foamy on top of it when you're cooking it, or has kind of like a thin, dusty element to it if you don't rinse it first. That's all. No, Amy, Summer doesn't eat meat at all. So no, that's not going to happen. Oatmeal is the greatest of all time. Yeah, oat milk is pretty great, I will say. But you want to get a vitamin D fortified one. Make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. Oatmeal bloats you. That can be true. Sometimes it's not. It's doing it every single day even isn't necessarily. It can give you leaky gut. But steel cut oats are the way to go, and rinse them. And again, I think we've learned one thing from quarantine, folks, is that it's okay to spend a little time making your food for yourself. That process is very healing, and a lot of people just rush to it. They even rush. This is the thing. I understand, and God knows I understand, having like situations where I've literally been like shooting all day and I have a live show that night and I have to travel 2 hours to get there, and having enough food and all that kind of stuff. And you guys know I still eat 1 meal a day, 5 days a week strict. And then on the weekends I do, I do regular 16/8 fasting. But finding my eating window, making sure that I have enough food and stuff, rushing it sometimes. I have fallen into that where I've gone, if I'm going to eat today at all, I'm going to have to eat something quick and something relatively large, and it won't necessarily be the highest quality food, so I just have to do it. I understand that. But a lot of people rush their cooking when they don't have to. And that's the thing I would have people look at. that they look at meal preparation from the standpoint of I don't have a lot of time, when they are not being honest about how much time they actually have. That's the thing. If you're really pressed for time and you're just, you need to get meals out for everybody in the family, like I do sometimes with everybody here, I understand like shortening that process through certain processed foods will happen with some regularity for everybody. But a lot of times, if you take an honest look at what you do with your time, it's only really an extra half an hour once you get used to cooking that you add to the, making your meal when you use full ingredients. And sometimes it's really just juggling everything being ready too fast. That's the surprising part, right? Yeah, don't rinse your Instant Oats. Yeah, because they've probably got flavoring on them. That people are microwaving and all that stuff anyways. I'm talking about when you cook it on a stove. Usually add hemp or coconut milk and blueberries. Yeah, I love vanilla yogurt and with fresh blueberries in it. That's one of my big things. Bulk cook steel cut oats and store 1 week worth in the fridge. Yeah, and you can, you can chunk off a piece of that and eat it. It's great. That's basically how you get. That's the ripped abs diet. I am not my thoughts that everybody talks about. That's what what's his name from Ryan Reynolds. He always talks about making a giant thing of oatmeal, and then he eats that as his mid meal every day because it brooms everything out. Preparation is key. Cut up your stuff. It helps with timing. That's totally true. Been making protein pancakes so good. Yeah, there's those Kodiak ones that you can get too that are great. I'm a Quaker 1 minute oats gal. I understand that. I respect that. Don't rinse those. Those are, that's a different order altogether. Those come flavored and all kinds of other stuff. Wild blueberries, double the antioxidants, less sugar. Good point. I do organic ones from Sprouts. But yeah, we have blueberry bush trees in our backyard. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. Colon blow. It's so good. The one cereal that I eat is Heritage Flakes. There's a flax version that they have as well, and I will occasionally have, if I have a bowl of cereal, that's my go-to. I was a big Grape Nuts fan for a long time too, but again, too many of the whole grains can mess with your gut if you're not careful. You got to let it heal. You can't do that every day. I only eat for nutrition, so eating once a day or every other day has been fine for me for 20 years. Yeah, it's B. Gabriel, I think we put too much weight on, the comfort aspect of food and don't face the discomfort in our lives. And so we put all that weight on there. It's fine sometimes. Ezekiel cereal, nutrient dense. Yeah, I've seen those, the Ezekiel, the Jesus cereals. I eat grape nuts when I don't eat oatmeal. Yeah, it's a good time, Strange. I've loved it since I was a kid. Any conspiracy theories on food? LOL. Yeah, I think that it's not so much a conspiracy theory. It's just that I think doctors should be forced to, as part of their medical training, study nutrition, and that nutrition should be a higher order of medicine in our country, and that they should, as we learn more about it, because there's more experience about it, that doctors should actually have to have continuing education on nutrition. Because again, too much fiber can mess with you, and a lot of people who have leaky gut syndrome, it's largely due to the fact that the amount of whole grains that they're eating, and sometimes your body's it's like eating broken glass. So you have to be careful, Oatmeal and blueberries for lunch, already been soaking on the counter. That's very nice. I like overnight oats, where you used yogurt and let it kind of steep overnight in that regard. It's pretty great. Now I want biscuits and gravy, right? Grape nuts are terrible, yet they get better each bowl. By the time you finish the box, you're a fan. Weird stuff. Bowl of gravel. Yeah, it is very strange. It's one of those, it's like pancakes, though. You can't let them get too moist or they're nasty. Follow the CDC's guidelines, not Trump's. I think that's wise. Yeah. read the stupid Trump letter too fast. Thought it said comic relief, not economic relief. Well, we should only be so lucky if it was comic relief. I mean, that's what I'm doing every day. Let's be honest. Did I ever tell you guys my comic relief story? So it had been my dream for a long time to be on comic relief, and never could get on. Was too young, and then it was kind of past its arc. Because we fixed homelessness, not a problem anymore. It's gone. So did you notice? Yeah, that's stopping doing comic relief. But in the process, they did a comic relief comedy festival at Universal. They tried to do it that way, and they aired some live stand-up things instead of having one big gathering in New York and stuff to raise money as a telethon. They did it as they were going to do it as a festival. And my comedy troupe, Here Comes the Neighborhood, got booked to do our show there, and we were on the main stage. It was one of the biggest gigs we got, quite frankly. This was like 96, probably 95. We got booked there, and it was a huge deal. Like, it was the main stage at Universal, right in front of the theater, right? It's like the big space up there. And the crowds had been fairly solid, and it was really exciting. And we had a lot of it was a sketch comedy show, so we had a lot of stuff. I had music cues and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I had a fat suit and all this kind of crazy outfits that I like. We had an improv box of props. It was like, whose line is it anyway? But with written sketches. Our normal show was 90 minutes when we did it twice a night in Pasadena at the Ice House. It was a great time. So we get up there, and we're scheduled to go on at a certain time. And Fritz Coleman was supposed to go on before us. He's a comedian, but he's also the weatherman in L.A. And he didn't show. This was in California. Yeah, this was in Universal City at City Walk in California where they were doing this. And they came to us and they said, "Hey, Fritz Coleman's not here." It was like 20 minutes in his set, and we were supposed to go on at, let's say, 1 o'clock. I forget the time. No, I think it was later than that. It was like 3 o'clock. We were supposed to go on at 3 p.m. And they'd had a show at 1 to 2, and then Fritz was supposed to come up, and Fritz didn't show up or wasn't showing up. And so they came to us at 2:30 and said, "Hey, you're going to have to go on early, and then we'll just bump the person above you," and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, we can't. We got music cues and stuff, and our tech is still parking his car, but he's going to be up here. He'll be here on time for our set. We'll start." And they're like, "Well, the audience is going to walk away. They're going to lose the audience." And I said, "I'll get them back. We're going on at our regular time." This was the first time in my life. I'm such a people pleaser most of the time, but I put my foot down because we had so much production and I didn't want to screw everybody and feel rushed. And this was our one shot. We didn't get to go to Aspen and all this other stuff had happened. And I was like, damn it. This has got to happen like it's supposed to. I'm not going to let them throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. So I'm sorry if this is a boring story, but it was sort of crucial. So we go up there like 10 minutes before our time slot. Fritz had still not shown up, and they were talking about even bumping us later, which I'm fine with because once we're ready to go, we're ready to go. But I'm not going early. And Fritz never showed. So 10 minutes before our set time, I was like, "Give me a live mic," and I walked all the way around Universal City Walk, barking crowd for like 15 minutes. It was 15 minutes leading up to the show. 15 minutes, getting audience just going, "Hey, folks, we're going to have a live show," blah, 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 like old school, Venice street performer stuff. Just getting everybody, come on over. You know what? You don't even have to stand outside the wall. You don't even have to sit down. Just, if you don't like the show, you can walk away. But if you come up, blah, 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 and went back and forth through all this. And in the process of doing this, we packed it. Packed the whole, there was about 30% full. For the shows before us, I filled it. And in doing that, sorry, Moto, it's on the wrong one. So hold on, let me bounce you over. I can't bring it up on that one. Give me a second. So in the process of doing that, we bounced down to we were at 2 o'clock. Hold on, I'm clearing up something digitally real quick. So bark the crowd, it was full. So in doing that, with the full crowd, we did our show, killed, it was great, it was a good time, really enjoyable. And then in like right as I finished, I come off stage, I'm all sweaty and nasty. Because it's like the show was a lot of work. It was like dancing. I did a rap as Detective Van Adder, the cop from the OJ trial, and where I climb over the wall and drop into the thing, and like it was a lot. I walk off, I'm pulling off my wig, and I'm sweaty. And Bob Zmuda, who was in charge of comic relief, and who was Andy Kaufman's partner, and notoriously he worked with him for years, comes running up and goes, "Who's the guy who got the crowd over here? Who was that with the microphone? Who was that?" And everybody was like, it was him. Like they thought he was mad, like because we'd drawn audience from somewhere else or something, because there were other shows going on, and they thought I was going to get in trouble. And he goes, come with me, come with me. I'm like, "Can I put my regular clothes on?" He's like, "Yeah, get dressed, but come with me immediately." And they walked us all the way, he walked me all the way down the other end of Universal to where this outdoor restaurant was, where they had a live comedy special that HBO was going to air, and they had no audience for it. And they had me stand outside with a microphone and bark audience for that show, which I was not a part of, nor was I asked to be a part of. And I filled the place up, and they went, "Hey, man, thanks." And I never heard from them again. And then, years later, I think somebody told Zmuda that story. He was like, "Wait, you were that guy? Thanks, man." And he was nice about it. But they were so ate up at that time, Yeah, HBO that day. It was a live part of it, because HBO was doing the comic relief back in the day. And so they'd managed to get like 2 live specials or half specials. Did I get to perform at the next one? No. But I did stand up every night for the next 2 years and ended up, getting talk soup. So there you go. Good times. Well, that's a different ending than I expected. Yeah, they're like, "You get your own show." No, that was not the ending. The ending was, "Thanks, kid. See you later." Huh? All right. I'll go pack my stuff up. Right. That was, and that was, famously, you guys remember the story of that sketch group and all the behind the scenes stuff. I've talked about that on stream before, and if you hadn't heard it, it's a lot. I'm just saying, yes, yeah, I'm always signing off. I'm just saying that whatever you've been through, trying to achieve your dream and reach the level of whatever you want, and life has been chucking monkey wrenches into your engine the entire time. I just want you to know I understand, and I see you, and I hear you, and I have been there. And there are so many of these moments along the years kind of leading up to pre-Talk Soup years, where everything in a 24-hour period, everything just went away, and tomorrow you just stand up and start working again. You just get on your feet. Yeah, that's right, Mark. It's true. It is the happy ending, but it comes from that fact that like every win, sometimes the things you thought were going to be a win that turn out to be nothing are worse than the abstract losses, because the losses are more relatable than the things that just didn't pan out and kind of leave you in this numb state of nothing, And so I'm just saying, in life, there are 2 losses that you can go through when you struggle, either as an entrepreneur or a business person, or making a career, or trying to get a degree in something or whatever. The big losses are where everything gets blown up and the deal falls through and all that kind of stuff. And you hear those big stories. Some of the things are where things just flatline for a time, and getting them back up and running again is the daily effort, And I have so much respect for people who do that all the time. And that's why I'm saying that some of the people who are trying to get the economy started again and following that we need to open up, blah, 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 not all of them are doing it from a I don't care if people die point of view, but I just have to stand up today and try to have whatever customers I can within this context and do what I can to make sure that I don't get anybody sick, but I also don't lose my business in the process and all that kind of stuff. All those things. So anyways, all right, I really am signing off because my software is frozen and I can't play the other clips that I would have played anyways. So there you go. That's just got to live with that, and we just do it, and such is life. And then I'm going to go back online and see if I can figure out what the heck went south with that nonsense. I don't get it. That was just weird. So we'll anyways. Oh, rip Fred Willard, and just yesterday Fred Willard passed. That's terrible on the way out. I love Fred. He was a sweetheart. I got to do charity events, and I didn't hear about that yesterday. I was offline working. Man. Lovely human being. So funny. I'm going to go watch Roxanne. Just a super talented guy and a sweetheart. And oddly enough, well, let me bring this up. Speak lovely of the dead in the Paul Rubens category of scandals, as it were, and hats off or pants off or however, whatever's off. But anyways, lovely guy, super funny, just genius in Spinal Tap and all the Chris Guest movies. Just goddamn. So anyways, everybody take care of yourselves. Hug somebody close if you can, and if you can't, like I said, reach out to the folks that you are again outside the normal realm of what you know. We'll talk about Cyrano and Roxanne one day. The backstory of that is fantastic. But reach out to somebody that's outside your normal circle that you haven't been talking to during this whole thing. Just check in on them. Just tap them on the shoulder digitally and let them know, because there's so many moving parts in this life that we can't count the possibilities of how people could be taken from us, or what people might, even if they're not taken, what they might be going through. And just the hearing from you saying, hey, you're being thought of, might make all the difference in their lives. So I appreciate you guys. I think about you when I'm not online, and it's parting is such sweet sorrow. I will be back on later just for kits and shiggles, and we will figure this all out. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I'm trying to sign off. I really am. I really will do it. All right. Reach out to somebody. That's your assignment. And Jess Dollface, thanks for showing up again. Appreciate it. Absolutely. And Can't Stop Lying, thanks for your support. And Carl, thanks to all the moderators and everybody like that.